In the city at night, streets shrouded in mysterious darkness came to life, and flickering lights created a mesmerizing atmosphere. The story begins in a casino, where a beautiful red-haired girl was sitting and playing poker, and the dealer told the players to show their cards, all of which was watched by the people behind the girl. It turned out that the girl had spied the cards and was therefore confident of her victory over the man sitting opposite her, but for some reason the young man had completely different cards. The man replied to the girl that she had lost, so he kindly reminds her of the agreement. Their agreement was that if she lost, the beauty would go on stage and dance a striptease. The purple-haired man was looking forward to her performance. The purple-haired man reassured the beauty, telling her not to be embarrassed, explaining that she had access to the center stage and the pole. The girl was anxiously aware that she did not want to go on stage and began to feel uncomfortable. The beauty smiled. She wanted to beat this man, but in the end she would have to take off her clothes. The main character climbed on the table and touched the gentle face of the handsome man with her hands, after which she replied that she would dance with pleasure, but only for him. The red-haired girl noticed that up close, the man's eyes looked very fascinating. The man smiled and ordered his guards not to touch the main character and agreed to let her dance for him. The girl was a little shocked. He grabbed the red-haired beauty and put her on his lap, after which he said that she was a wind-up girl. The beauty resisted his insistence as best she could. The crowd of people was surprised by this act, and the purple-haired man pressed the girl closer and tighter. The main character came to this institution to get a job, and then this happens. The characters travel back 2 years, to the island of Saipan, where the sun was shining brightly and people were boating. There were people sunbathing on the beach, and some girl was running Wani's rubble. The red-haired girl was named Wani, and the blonde-haired girl Kentai was a friend of the protagonist who brought her swimming goggles and said that she was very absent-minded. Kentai feels uneasy about the red-haired girl due to her absent-mindedness, fearing that it might affect her safety. Wani replied that her blonde friend needed to learn to swim and they could do it together, and now the main character is alone. Kentai said that she is afraid of water. They entered the building and the friend said that the red-haired girl was in good shape and there would always be someone to follow her. The main character replied that she did not want anyone to think that the girl was looking for a partner. A voice came from behind her and greeted the girl by calling her name. It was a young guy. He was also looking for someone to cooperate with. It was luck for him. His name was Tong Chi-jean. The guy asked if he could go with her. The girls were surprised, after which Wani dived with her boyfriend under the water with scuba gear to see all the beauty of the sea. They swam and admired the marine life. The fish and turtles were so close that you could reach them with your hands. After that, they went up to the boat and talked about what an amazing and beautiful world exists underwater. Tong Chi-jean praised Wani's underwater diving technique and suggested that the girl dive deeper next time, after which he noticed Lucy's inscription. The red-haired girl laughed and said that her technique was perfect. The guy asked the girl, "Lucy, this is her name?" The beauty replied that it is her name in English. It's just that Kentai is afraid that the main character will mix up the costumes, so she embroidered her name. The young guy said that the girlfriends had a great relationship. When he approached them, Kentai looked at him suspiciously. Tong Chi-jean asked, "He looked so dangerous." Wani smiled and replied in the negative. They heard the sound of waves splitting, after which they turned around and saw a very large yacht. The main character was surprised by such a size. The guy assumed that it was a yacht of the rich. It was the first time he had seen it so close. A man with purple hair stood on a yacht with a glass of wine and looked into the distance, enjoying the view of the sea. Then the action takes place on the beach, where Wani, Kentai, and Tong Chi-jean are sitting at the same table. The guy asks the girls if they came here on vacation. Tong Chi-jean said, he heard that there is a suitable dive site outside the beach, but the guy has to go to work now. The guy invited the girl to go there tomorrow, calling her Lucy. She kindly agreed, after which Kentai asked how he knew her English name. The main character replied that he saw him on a diving suit. The next day, Wani and Chi-jean went to the dive site. The waves were very big, so it was dangerous to dive. But the young guy was determined to see what was under the water. The red-haired girl agreed, and they went underwater. The current of the water was strong, but the girl adapted and resolutely swam after the guy. Tong Chi-jean decided to turn around and check if Wani was okay. She pointed with her fingers that everything was fine. The guy pointed his finger for them to get down to business. The girl agreed, and she swam after Tong Qijan. Wen felt that there was a very strong current of water ahead, and she could not continue to swim. The young guy noticed this, but it was too late. He couldn't help the red-haired girl, so she was swept away by a strong current. The girl threw out the hook and got caught on the rocks. Wen wondered if it was a good thing she hadn't been going with the flow all this time, otherwise she wouldn't have been able to go back. The beauty has to go upstairs to find the boat and tell Tong Qijan that she is all right. As she began to climb up her leg, someone grabbed her, and Wen was frightened and didn't know what to do. Wen turned around and was horrified to see a man in a diving suit holding on to her leg. The red-haired girl swam up to the man. She realized that he needed help, so she looked at the oxygen values in the Bologna. It was at 0. The main character took out a spare regulator and put it in the man's mouth so that he could breathe, after which she began to pull it to the surface. The man was still conscious, and when he opened his eyes, the stranger saw the inscription on Lucy's diving suit. The beauty climbed to the surface and screamed in a shrill voice, begging someone to come to the rescue. When Wen noticed that the man had lost consciousness and needed immediate help, she looked at her hand and there was blood on it. The red-haired girl did not understand what had happened to the stranger. She assumed that he was attracted to something underwater. A boat drove up to them and Wen started shouting for them to pick them up because the girl had a victim in her arms. The men were surprised, but decided to pick them up, after which they put the stranger down and began to examine him. Taking off the stranger's mask, the main character looked at his face in surprise and was stunned by his extraordinary beauty. The men looked at the purple-haired guy and asked if he was okay. Wen tried to bring him to his senses. Wen noticed that the purple-haired guy wasn't breathing. She was very frightened, but something had to be done. The girl decided to give a heart massage to the stranger. She needed to hurry because he could die. After that, the beauty took a breath and the man began to show signs of life. When he woke up, Wen told the men to call the doctors. One of them ran to follow the girl's instructions. The girl breathed a sigh of relief when she realized that she had managed to save a man's life, and this filled her heart with peace. The action then takes place in a hospital surrounded by 2 palm trees, which give the surrounding area a special tropical charm. 2 girls were standing near the entrance of the hospital and talking. Kentai said it was very dangerous. Wen replied, she thought the man had died. Kentai asked her friend where Tong Qijan was, if the main character had seen the guy or if he had also been swept away by the current. Wen replied that they had separated, but the red-haired girl was sure that everything was fine with him. Her friend replied that it was very dangerous, it was better to stop swimming. Tong Qijan ran up to her friends and asked if the main character was okay. The beauty was surprised when she saw him. The young guy said that he had finally found Wen. The guy was very worried that it was all because of him. The red-haired girl replied that everything was fine. The guy heard the beauty rescuing someone. Wen replied that she did everything she could. Qijan offered to check on the man's condition to make sure he was okay. There was panic in the hospital. The nurses were in a hurry. The main character noticed it and did not understand what was happening. Qijan asked what happened. The nurses replied that the man who had just been brought had escaped from the hospital in an unknown direction. The girl and the boy were shocked by such words. They ran to the patient's room and there was no one there. The girl asked where he could have gone. Wen was upset because the man left and didn't say anything. Now she has to pay for his medical bill. Qijan's tone felt that the man's wound was not severe and he was talking to his family. Then he asked the nurses if they had asked the purple-haired man for his name. The women who worked in the hospital told the guy something, and he was very surprised. A young man approached Wen and said that the man she had rescued had been wounded by a bullet, which was why he had run away from the hospital. The girls were extremely surprised by this answer, and Wen just couldn't believe what she heard. The friends said that they should leave this place and never talk about it again. The girls agreed with Tong Qijan's words. Kong Tae was worried about her red-haired friend, so she couldn't let her worry about what had happened. The blonde girl decided that she would go with Wen to Saipan. Everything was fine until the holidays were over. The red-haired beauty was inspecting her belongings and could not find a diving suit. Wen remembered leaving him in the laundry, and Kentai replied that she would go pick him up and bring him to her. The blonde girl found Wen's diving suit and smiled because she was the one who had written Lucy on it. When Kentai walked with a suit in her hands, men in glasses approached her and asked if it was her costume. The blonde girl was very frightened and replied that it was her costume. She was very worried about Wen. so she decided to stand up for the main character. The bald man replied that the young girl had to go with them. Kentai was very scared, so she couldn't resist. The protagonist heard a strange noise outside. She decided to go and have a look. When she came running, her friend was already gone. Instead of her, she only saw Kentai's shoes, which made her even more worried. The beauty ran to the police station and turned to the man. The girl demanded to find her friend, since she was missing. Vo Ni said that someone saw her abducted. The police are obliged to find her, as they are responsible for the tourists. The red-haired girl began to scream at the entire station, and the police decided to detain her and calm her down. Tong Qijan came to the police station. The girl noticed him and began to ask him for help. The guy was a little surprised when he met the girl in such a place. The main character was sitting on the couch and worried about Kentai. She did not expect that this could happen to her friend, and all this because of her. Qijan approached her and decided to calm the girl down. The beauty took out what was in the envelope and saw Kentai there. Some guys were taking her to the yacht. When they said there was nothing there, the main character was very upset and asked if the police didn't want to look for her. Kentai replied, "Of course they will continue to look for her, but it will take a long time." The red-haired girl trembled and asked who these people were, why they did this, and for what purpose. Different thoughts began to come to the girl's mind. She thought that this kidnapping of students was necessary for human trafficking. Ni burst into tears. Now the girl, when she closes her eyes, she sees Kentai's face and how she asks for help. Ni said that she had to find her girlfriend. The guy stood and watched it. He thought for a while. Tong Qijan replied to the beauty that he had already informed the embassy to help find Kentai. There is a high probability that this situation is related to international crime, so she should return home. The girl asked if the guy could help find her friend. Tong Qijan replied why the beautiful woman thought he could find her friend. The main character explained that maybe she is doing the wrong thing when she asks him for help, but the guy has many ways to involve the police in this case. The beauty said, she thinks that Tong Qijan is a detective or a policeman. The guy was surprised and looked at the girl. He thought that Ni is very smart and now looks very persistent. The young guy replied that the beauty is right, he is a detective. Ni said, the guy needs a beautiful assistant. She can speak 4 languages and does sports. She will be useful. Tong Qijan replied that she was still a student and this kind of work was not a game, so he couldn't agree. Ni replied that if he didn't accept her, then the girl would follow him until the guy agreed. Next, the action takes place in another place, where Ni is talking on the phone with some unknown person. He sent the girl photos with evidence on her laptop and said that he would help her find a friend. The stranger asked on the phone how long he had to wait. The main character replied that she could not wait a day. Suddenly, a message is sent to the girl's laptop. It says that Ni should not do such dangerous things. 2 years later, in the psychology room, a girl was laughing and saying that she hated the doctor. The doctor wanted to make love to the girl. All this was filmed by a red-haired girl, after which she left the psychology room. She called an unknown woman and said that she had evidence of her husband's infidelity. Ni continued the conversation and said that it would be beneficial for the woman if she divorced him. She would give all the evidence personally, after which the beauty hung up the phone, because a guy she knew was calling her. Tong Qijan asked the girl if she was up to the task, and then laughed and replied that this question was a waste of time. The guy said that the girl quickly grew from an awkward student to his experienced assistant. The beauty replied that she was too good for him. Qijan was still not sure if he should show this dark world. There are things that it is better for a girl not to know about. Ni immediately understood. The guy found out that she was still looking for her friend. The guy asked the beauty. She thought that no one would know. The red-haired girl replied that Qijan did not help her. The detective had clues about the people who kidnapped Kentai, but for some reason he refused to share them. The detective answered, he didn't say because Ni was no match for them. The beauty asked, the guy wasn't afraid that she would act recklessly. Tong Qijan thought for a while and decided. He emailed the girl a file, and told her to check it out. The red-haired girl thanked him for it. The detective replied that Ni only thanked him for such things. It was night outside. The girl sat down at the table, turned on her laptop and decided to check her mail. She saw photos of the guy who kidnapped her friend. There were a lot of guards near him. The girl was surprised that she found him. When Ni compared the photos, she realized that it was the same person. the girl only had to find him and find out where Kentai was now. The red-haired beauty was very angry, she clenched her fist. The girl couldn't forgive them for taking Kentai away. The phone on the table started ringing. Wenai answered the call. It was Tong Qijan. She greeted him and said that the girl had seen the photos. The detective replied that the photos had been taken this afternoon in the city of Z. They must be there. The girl replied that she would go there immediately. Tong Qijan decided to confess to Wenai that he loved her. The girl didn't expect this from a guy, so she thought for a while. Wenai replied that she couldn't think about it right now and he knew about it, so the girl apologized. The guy said that he knows and that's why he will do everything in his power to help her, and after that, Qijan wants to live a quiet life with her. The main character replied that she would think about it, but the detective told the girl to wait and they would go to the city together. She agreed and hung up. After that, Wenai apologized because she couldn't wait any longer. The girl had to find her friend. The red-haired girl came to the beautiful night city of Z, where lights and shadows created an atmosphere of mystery and charm. The beauty was sitting on the couch at the Hilton Hotel. The photos were taken near its entrance. She wondered if the villain was still in it or not. Wenai thought for a moment. Qijan said that he was a private detective. Didn't he have a very good connection? She had been with him for 2 years, but she didn't know him at all. The girl suspects that Qijan is not his real name. The beauty noticed how the villain entered the hotel. The red-haired girl sat wondering how to find a way to get close to the man when he was surrounded by guards. The villain went to the elevator. The girl was very angry at this man. She thought that she had finally met him face to face. When they went to book herself a hotel room, the beauty went into the room and called Rank. She needed him to find the person from the photo she sent in the letter. The main character wanted to know why he came to the Hilton Hotel. Rank didn't really want to do everything for free. Even if Qijan and Wenai are a couple, they can't give him tasks just like that. Wenai countered that it's all nonsense, and hacking hotel video cameras is an easy task for him. The hacker agreed. The hacker quickly finished and found out information about the man. His name was Horace Tanner. He is American and works for a security company. He checked his living room records, and he rented the top 2 floors of the hotel, under the name of the Rochesters, and Ranku assumed that the Rochesters were his employers. The protagonist said that the Rochesters are famous in their gambling business. Ranku confirmed Wenai's words and said that they are very strong in both worlds, legal and illegal. He heard they had a new heir 2 years ago. Beauty thought for a moment, and told Ranku to find more information, but he replied that hacking security companies is not that easy. One wrong move and he will be tracked down. Wenai replied that she believes in him. The red-haired girl can't stay here. She has to go to the rented top 2 floors of the hotel now. Wenai went to the upper floors and met the guards. The men warned that this floor was reserved. She could not enter here. The girl pretended to be drunk and said that she was looking for her room. The guards tried to stop the girl, but the door opened and Horace Tanner came out, after which he grabbed her hand. Wenai was surprised to see him. The man said that she did not belong here. The main character smiled and said that they had seen each other before. Horace Tanner ordered the guards to take the girl away from this floor. The girl called the man by name and said, didn't he remember her? They had met 2 years ago in Saipan, which interested Horace. The man asked the guards what she said, but the guard replied that she had already fallen asleep. He ordered the beauty to be locked in the room. The beautiful woman was lying on the bed and pretending to be asleep. She took out something and the man noticed it. But it was too late. The girl threw some white powder at the guard. The man inhaled it and fell. Wenai was pleased with herself and changed into her security uniform and suddenly heard a sound from behind her that frightened her. It was a walkie-talkie that said that the master had arrived at the entrance to the hotel. All the guards were to take their positions. The main character assumed that he was the current heir of the Rochester family. A luxury car was parked near the entrance of the hotel, standing out from the crowd of other cars. A handsome purple-haired man with glasses got out of the car to enter the hotel. The man held out his hand and said, "Let's go, Lucy." The girl hesitated a little, but also held out her hand. The beauty watched it all. Horace Tanner greeted the host, and he hoped they would both enjoy the journey. The purple-haired peasant replied that he hoped so. The main character tried to see what the current head of the Rochester family looked like. She noticed that there was a girl with the man. The red-haired girl realized that it was her friend Kentai. She didn't understand how this could happen. The purple-haired man told Horace that his subordinates were rude. how dare they look at them like that. Wa'anai lowered her voice and apologized for her behavior, and Horace Tanner began to suspect something. The girl turned around and walked away. The white-haired man began to whisper something in the guard's ear. She realized that she had been exposed. The beauty noticed the waitress. She needed to change her clothes, so she decided to take a waitress uniform to get lost in the crowd of people. She changed her clothes and no one found her at the hotel. Now the girl could go to her room. The protagonist went into her room and decided to take a shower. She couldn't believe that it was really Kante. The girl decided to find a way to check again if it was her friend. When the girl came out of the shower, she received a call. It was Qijan. He asked if Wa'anai was at the Hilton Hotel. The girl replied yes. Tong Qijan told the red-haired girl to leave this place immediately because someone was planning an attack on the leader of the Rochester clan. Wa'anai got upset and replied that the detective was right, she shouldn't have come here. Suddenly, there was a loud explosion. The girl turned around. She was scared and did not understand what the sound was. All the people on the street were looking in the direction of the hotel. They saw that there had been an explosion on the top floor. The red-haired girl was worried about her friend, so she ran to the source of the sound. The main character wanted to save Kangtae. Qijan's tone told Wa'anai to leave quickly, but the girl hung up the phone and didn't want to listen to the guy. People fled the hotel in panic, but the beauty tried to break through the crowd of frightened strangers. In Ni, someone grabbed her hand. When the girl turned around, she saw a stranger who said that it was dangerous there, but the beauty would not be able to get up anyway. The main character tried to break free. She screamed for the man to let go of her hand, because her friend was on top. The red-haired girl saw Horace Tanner walking down the hallway, and Wa'anai wondered why he wasn't with the leader of the Rochester clan now. The beauty remembered the time when Qijan hired her and warned her that this job was very dangerous for an ordinary girl. Wa'anai then replied that the guy accepted her because she was smart, beautiful, and good at fighting. The detective told her not to brag. Qijan accepted the girl, because the beauty has good intuition, it is much better experience. Wa'anai came back to reality. She had no proof, but it seemed to her that the leader of the Rochester clan and the others were no longer on the top floor. The girl decided to go after the white-haired guy. He can lead her to Kintai and then she can make sure that her friend is safe. There was another explosion that threw the girl away. Wa'anai was very frightened. She turned around and couldn't believe her eyes. There were people under the rubble, and if she had taken another step, she might have been among them. The main character began to tremble. Qijan was right, it didn't look like her job at all. The girl's leg hurt a lot, and she couldn't get up. The red-haired girl began to cry. She finally found Kangtae after 2 years of searching. Wa'anai didn't want to lose her friend again. And she remembered how she had come to Kintai's relatives and started to apologize. Kintai's mother was crying out that the girls had left together. Why Wa'anai had come back alone? What was the point of apologizing if she would never see her daughter again? These memories gave Wa'anai strength, and she stood up. The girl must bring Kangtae home at any cost. Wa'anai followed Horace. Her eyes were determined, and meanwhile, the guards were running and shouting for the white-haired man to go to the emergency exit, but the man turned around and noticed the red-haired girl. The beauty followed the guy and came to the pier. The villains took the boat. The girl assumed that they were in the hotel for cover. Horace Tanner approached the red-haired girl from behind and punched, then handcuffed Wa'anai. The white-haired guy assumed this girl had been watching them for a long time. Horace was not sure if she belonged to another clan. After that, the white-haired guy came to the clan leader and told him what had happened. The purple-haired man wiped the weapon and replied that the other clans just didn't like the sight of the new leader. The white-haired guy said that it was just a matter of time before they attacked them again. Horace Tanner laid out on the table the things Wa'anai had found. She had no weapons. The people of the clan didn't understand what she had even forgotten here. The guards began to look at the girl's belongings and found an ID card with her name on it, but one of the men said that 90% of the time, it was false information. A girl came in. She looked at the ID card and didn't say a word. 6 hours after the explosion at the Hilton Hotel, the correspondent said that the cause of the explosion was an attempt to increase the dominance of the mobster gang. Tong Qijan was already outside the hotel. He couldn't get in touch with the girl after the incident, and she has no idea how dangerous her target is. The detective called Rick to help. The detective asked Rick how many boats belonged to the Rochesters at the nearest pier. Meanwhile, boats with armed men began to approach the yacht. who wanted to kill the head of the clan. The guards warned the head and Horace Tanner that boats with people were approaching and they were in the mood for battle. The purple-haired guy stood up with his weapon and decided to return the favor to them, directing his next step towards the enemy. The guards were shooting at people from another clan. Men in uniform wanted to climb onto the yacht. The guards were joined by Horace Tanner, who fired his pistol at the men on the boat and successfully hit one person. The purple-haired guy supported Horace and also fired a sniper rifle at enemies. Meanwhile, the main character woke up on the yacht. She had a headache and did not understand what had happened to her. She heard the sound of gunfire coming from above, and her heart beat faster with fear and anxiety. Wa-ni began to realize that she had been taken aboard and was in the middle of a shootout, and she knew that if she didn't run away now, she might not run away later. The red-haired girl notices the keys to the handcuffs. She takes them in her hands and begins to try to open the lock. She manages to free herself. Beauty doesn't understand how the Rochesters can be so careless. She decides to leave the yacht. Being watched by her friend, she decided to help Wa-ni free herself by throwing her the keys to the handcuffs, but Kentai didn't want the protagonist to see her. Wa-ni went up and at that time, a door opened, where a guard was standing, who shouted that there was someone on the yacht, after which a boat crashed into the yacht. The girl screamed and ran away. The purple-haired guy heard that someone had climbed onto the deck and decided to see who it was. The head of the clan told Horse that everything else was left to him. The white-haired guy didn't mind, after which the guy went on deck. The main character decided to look around and saw that she was no longer on the pier. There was the sea around. Wa-ni came under fire, but easily dodged all the bullets, demonstrating her high skill and ability to react quickly to danger. She looked at the clan leader who was standing with a gun. When the girl turned her head, Wa-ni saw a diving suit and cylinders. The beauty threw all this to the purple-haired guy. He did not expect such a reaction and tried to dodge. The balloon and costume fell into the sea, after which the girl jumped. She hoped to escape from the yacht. The purple-haired guy pointed a gun at her and saw that it was a girl with flippers in her hands and wearing a mask. The clan leader didn't want to shoot her, so he wondered what to do in such a situation. The guy suddenly grabbed the girl, and they fell down together, after which they only flashed above the surface of the water. Horace Tanner turned around and saw this. He started to worry a little about the owner. The guy couldn't understand what had happened. The purple-haired guy grabbed the girls in the water and didn't let go. Wa-ni wondered what was wrong with this guy. The red-haired girl needed to get up and quickly put on her gear, but the guy grabbed her breasts. The main character was angry that the purple-haired guy was pawing her. She did not understand what right he had to do this. Wa-ni freed herself from the clan leader's grip and rose to the surface, demonstrating her strength and determination to withstand any obstacles. The beauty saw the gear she had previously discarded floating just a few steps away from her. As soon as she decided to swim up to him, the girl was grabbed by the shoulder by a purple-haired guy who did not want to let her go. The main character was very annoyed by this. She needed to do something to prevent him from unhooking. The girl took her flippers and slapped the clan leader in the face with all her might. He stopped holding her shoulder. The purple-haired guy couldn't believe that Wa-ni had dared to hit him in the face with her flippers. The man was a little angry. He turned around. As soon as he wanted to say a single word, the girl disappeared somewhere. The girl quickly dived under the water with the tank. When the clan leader saw her, he thought it looked familiar. Wa-ni looked at him and thought the guy looked familiar, as if she had met him before, though she couldn't remember where or when. There was still a firefight on the yacht, but there were fewer people on the boats and they couldn't do anything. The guards came running and reported that all the men had been defeated, and Horace Tanner was pleased with the outcome of the battle. The white-haired guy asked the clan leader if he was okay. The purple-haired guy said that he was fine and needed help to get up. The head of the clan stood up and was given a towel to dry his hair, and the yacht fell silent. The purple-haired guy told Horace that the little fox had escaped and he didn't like it very much. Horace Tanner replied that she took advantage of the situation. The clan leader replied, "She is not from another clan, so the white-haired guy must find her." The white-haired guy replied that he would find the girl and bring her to the owner, while Kentai came to them. The fair-haired girl heard that the clan leader had fallen into the sea. She didn't want him to be injured. The violet-haired guy said that he was not injured, and then stretched out his hand to Kentai. The guy in the white suit said that it would be better to go. The girl silently looked at the head of the clan. Kentai stretched out her hand to the boy, and they held hands. the purple-haired guy said that he always worries about the girl when he takes her with him. The girl replied that she did not know anyone in his house, he was the only person she knew. The guy asked the blonde girl, she is still upset that he made her stay with him. The blonde girl replied, no, she won't go back there anyway, she needed to rest, today was a difficult day. A boat approached the yacht, and there was Chi-Jean on it, who was holding binoculars in his hands. He noticed that the shootout was already over. The guy did not know if Wen-I was on a boat or not, so he had to get there. The detective noticed bubbles appearing above the water, indicating that a person was swimming underneath. The signal buoy was thrown out of the water to the surface. The guy told the old man to stop the boat and turn off the engine. The old man gave an approving thumbs up. Tong Chi-Jean decided to take a look. He wondered who would come to the surface now. Wen-I floated to the surface. The girl was surprised to see Chi-Jean in such a place. The detective asked why she was having fun putting her life in danger. The girl replied that he should stop his sarcasm and help her up. After that, the guy said, it's good that Wen-I is okay, he was worried about her life, so he came here. The detective again confessed his love to the beauty. Wen-I was embarrassed and thanked the guy for coming to her aid. The guy didn't like the fact that the red-haired girl communicated with him as an outsider. Wen-I said that if he said so, he could understand her salary. Chi-Jean's tone was a little shocked by the protagonist's impudence, but then calmed down. He asked what the girl was going to do next. When they replied that the girl who was close to Rochester looked a lot like her friend who had been kidnapped. The red-haired girl thought it was unlikely, but she had to check it out. The beauty couldn't miss a single clue. The detective told the old man to take them back to the Hilton Hotel to check the security cameras. They had to film everything. Wen-I was surprised that the guy was going to help her. Then the action takes place near the hotel. The fire on the upper floors is extinguished and the police and doctors arrive at the hotel. The main character began to ask Dong Chi-Jean that he would really help her this time. The guy replied that the girl would shake like an insect and she would be killed in an instant if he did not help. Wen-I was a little offended by the detective's words. The beauty said discontentedly that when she talks about the search, Kentai, he disappoints her. The guy asked, while she was on the boat, did the girl meet someone dangerous or something dangerous? The girl remembered that she had met a dangerous man, the head of the clan, who shot at her and grabbed her by the chest. Wen-I replied that he was not even a dangerous person, but just a pervert. The detective was surprised by the girl's words and he wanted to hear the details, but the beauty did not want to tell him. Chi-Jean's tone was called by a man. The guy greeted the stranger, and the detective had to disturb him. The stranger and Chi-Jean walked away from the girl, and the unknown man asked the detective if he was here to investigate the case. The bosses told them to cooperate. Tong Chi-Jean replied that he wanted to see the CCTV cameras. The red-haired girl wondered if Tong Chi-Jean wasn't a private detective, why there were so many police officers working with him. Beauty wondered who he was, but she had to forget about it because she needed to find Kong Tae. The guy stopped and looked at Wen-I before telling her to check her room and pack her things, then wait for him in the hall. Wen-I asked why he didn't want her to go with him. The guy replied that she was stupid, let her look around. He thinks the Rochesters are still here. After all, it's been a while. If she's shown herself before, now the girl shouldn't leave any evidence. The main character understood everything and went to her room to find her things and collect them. The red-haired girl began to pack her things. She thought that Chi-Jean was more experienced than her. She needed to leave quickly. As she approached the door, Wen-I overheard a conversation. Someone reported that the girl the man was looking for was staying in the room. The beauty looked through the peephole and saw Horace Tanner, who was talking to the hotel staff. Wen-I didn't know how to get out of this situation, and she was a little confused when she couldn't find a reliable strategy. She closed the door. The men heard it. Horace Tanner said she was inside. Let the guards blow down the doors. Wen-I ran away from the door. When the protagonist ran to the window, she couldn't open it because the windows on the upper floors of the hotel don't open. The girl began to worry when they began to kick down the door. Her heart began to beat faster. Wen-I calmed down. She would still have to face them. She couldn't keep thinking about how to escape. On the boat, Tong Chi-Jean gave the red-haired girl a gun and told her to take it. For her own protection, safety came first. The protagonist took a gun out of her bag and pointed it at the door to protect herself from the Rochester men. When the guards and Horace Tanner burst into the girl's room, they saw Wen-I pointing a gun at them. The white-haired guy was a little shocked by this, so he stopped and decided to see what would happen. The red-haired girl said that they finally met. A guard ran towards her, but Wen pointed her gun at him and shot him in the leg. She didn't want anyone to approach her. If someone approaches her, the main character shoots them in the head. Horace Tanner asked a question. The girl who interested Mr. McGrady is completely different. Wen did not understand a little what the guy was talking about and said not to talk nonsense. The beauty asked that 2 years ago they took the girl from Saipan, where she is now. Horace Tanner replied that he had no idea what she was talking about, then took out a knife and threw it directly into the girl's hand. Wen let go of the gun and it fell to the floor. Wen screamed in pain and pressed herself against the window. The white-haired guy was very serious, so he did not want to let the girl go. The guy grabbed her by the throat and lifted her up, then said she could ask Mr. McGrady about it. The main character wondered if it was McGrady Rochester who gave the order to take Kong Tae. The girl could no longer resist. Tong Chi-jeon grabbed one of the guards and told the white-haired guy to take his hands off his girlfriend. Wen got angry and said she wasn't his girlfriend. Horace Tanner looked at the detective. The detective explained that the police are everywhere. They are dealing with the explosion that occurred earlier. As victims, the Rochesters should not kidnap his assistant. Horace Tanner knew this detective. He let the girl go and told his men to leave the hotel. Ki-jeon let go of the man in the suit and the Rochesters left. Wen thanked the detective for saving her again. The guy wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. They left the hotel by car. The details that the girl wanted to know from the hotel the detective had already taken. Tong Ki-jeon gave the photos from the surveillance cameras to Wen, and she began to look at them. The main character was very surprised. There was Kantai in the photo. The protagonist began to cry. She had no idea what Kantai had been through in these 2 years, but Wen was very happy that she was okay. The detective said that it was all great. He was surprised to see her friend there, but the girl saw the guy who was next to Kantai. This man who was on the yacht, she met him when she tried to escape. He's Rochester McGrady. The girl thought that the head of the Rochester clan was a middle-aged man. She did not expect him to be so young. Chi-jeon replied, "There is no difference. This guy made the old clan leader who led the clan for 20 years shut his mouth. He heard that the old clan leader raised McGrady himself. His ruthlessness is incredible." Wen began to worry about Kantai and touched her friend's photo with her hand. After that, the action is transferred to Rochester's yacht, which cuts through the sea waves. There was a man tied up on the yacht who said he was Uncle McGrady. The guy wasn't going to kill him. The purple-haired guy walked up to the man and asked him how he thought if he let him go this time, their situations would change. McGrady was sure that his uncle had done the same in his place, so he couldn't do otherwise. After that, the man was put in a bag and thrown into the sea. He could not get out, so he drowned. The head of the clan lay on the couch and remembered the red-haired girl, her eyes and silhouette reminding him of the day Lucy had saved him. But his memories were interrupted by Horace Tanner, who came to him and told him that they were all finished. McGrady replied, Horace had forgotten something. The white-haired guy didn't understand what the chapter was talking about. The purple-haired guy asked where the woman who slapped him was. Horace Tanner replied that he had forgotten. It didn't matter to McGrady. He thought he would meet the girl again someday. Kantai was listening to this conversation. She clenched her fist and begged Wen not to come here again. Then the action takes place in Chicago, where many skyscrapers, as if striving for the sky, create a unique cityscape that fills the space with the atmosphere of a modern metropolis. In the casino, the croupier and staff are talking to the visitors in English. All the people were fascinated by the beauty of some girl. That girl was Wen. She found out that this place is a frequent visitor to McGrady, and when he goes out in public, the guy is usually with Kong Tae. The main character has to meet up with a friend this time. The red-haired girl stood in the casino and pondered. She came again without Chi-jeon. Rochester shouldn't be in the lobby. If he came here to play, the guy should be in the VIP room. She had to go in. Wen noticed a man holding a VIP card, and the character was allowed to enter. The man realizes that he forgot his bag, so he went after her. The girl smiled and realized that this was her chance. The main character easily stole the card from the man when he did not suspect anything, demonstrating her dexterity and cunning. She approached the staff and showed the card, after which she was allowed to enter the VIP lounge. The door was opened in front of her, and she entered. The beauty saw a lot of rich people who were gambling. There was a huge amount of money on the table. The girl expected this. from the most popular casino in the world. The red-haired girl overheard a conversation between two strangers who were talking about Rochester. They needed to see him and also find a way to approach him somehow. They were annoyed by the fact that Lucy was constantly walking with him. The main character was surprised that strangers called her Lucy. Vo Ni had not been called by this name for a long time. Vo Ni saw her friend in the crowd who was in a hurry, so she needed to catch up with her quickly. As soon as the red-haired girl decided to go after her friend, she noticed that she had lost her. But the protagonist heard her friend's voice behind the doors, a voice that had been ringing in the girl's head for the past 2 years, and Vo Ni touched the door and wanted to cry. Suddenly, the door opened, and her friend Kentai was standing in front of her, and the blonde girl was very surprised when she saw her friend. The beauty was very happy when she saw Kentai. She had been waiting for this moment for 2 years. Vo Ni cried and asked how Kentai was doing, but the blonde girl said the name of the main character and fell silent. The red-haired girl grabbed Kentai's hand and said that she would help her leave the place. Kentai didn't want to go with her friend, so she withdrew her hand. Vo Ni was surprised by such an act. The blonde girl looked at her friend and replied that the beauty had mistaken her for someone. The main character did not understand why her friend was doing this. Vo Ni said that it was simply impossible. The blonde girl apologized and began to leave. Vo Ni asked what was wrong and why she was ignoring her friend, but Kentai called the guards. The guards came very quickly. They didn't understand what had happened. The men in suits called her Lucy. The red-haired girl asked why her name was Lucy. Kentai informed the guards that Vo Ni was there to cause trouble and needed to be taken away. The main character screamed why Kongtae was pretending not to know her. The guards grabbed the girl. She screamed to let her go, after which the red-haired girl was knocked to the floor. Kentai turned around and said that no one had told the boys to be so rude. The blonde girl noticed someone behind her, and Vo Ni was sitting on the floor at the same time. High heels interfered with her. A familiar man appeared behind the beauty. It was McGrady. He saw the girl. The main character began to worry a little about what would happen to her next. McGrady began to smile. Vo Ni was worried about whether he realized that she was the one who slapped him. The girl noticed that her friend approached the purple-haired guy. Kentai asked what brought him here at such a time. McGrady explained that he owns the place and can come here whenever he wants. The main character realized that they have a difficult relationship. Vo Ni wanted to know what kind of relationship Kentai had with McGrady. The purple-haired guy asked. The red-haired girl called her Kentai. She knew this woman. The blonde girl gave a negative answer. The beauty decided to pretend to be drunk, asked for forgiveness and said that she just confused her with another person. Her friend breathed a sigh of relief, but the purple-haired guy gave the command to his guards not to let Vo Ni go, and she was surrounded by Rochester's men. McGrady said, if the girl wasn't trying to get close to them to get something from them, he offered to play. If the red-haired girl wins, the guy will give her a huge amount of money, and if she loses, then the beauty will dance a striptease. The girl was surprised by such an offer. The protagonist is not intimidated by this, so she decided to play with him. Kentai wanted to dissuade McGrady. But Vo Ni doesn't need the money. If the purple-haired guy loses, he'll do a striptease too. Horace Tanner said that this girl was very suspicious. She was also in Z City. He wanted to take her to investigate. Everyone was watching. The white-haired man began to approach Vo Ni. But he was stopped by the purple-blonde guy who wouldn't let him work. McGrady asked the girl if she really wanted to play. The guy walked over to Vo Ni and could tell from the look in her eyes that she wouldn't back down, which filled his heart with respect for her determination. All the people were interested in who was playing with Mr. McGrady. Kentai began to explain the rules of the game. Who would run out of chips, lose, she would be the dealer. They sat down at the same table and started the game. The purple-haired guy told the girl to bet first. Vo Ni noticed that the guy didn't even look at his cards. He just decided to check it out. As she bet all the chips she had, McGrady wondered why she would do that. 9 ace, 4 king, hidden card jack. McGrady noticed that she looked confident. Her cards were just as bad as his. The hidden card would be a pair. The dealer turned over the card and announced for them to show their cards. The girl won this round. The purple-haired guy smiled and thought that this card was worse than his. The red-haired girl said McGrady had already lost the first round. This round took half of his chips. It looks like Vo Ni has a chance to see the purple-haired guy dance a striptease. The strangers in the audience began to be embarrassed. They wanted to see Mr. McGrady dance, but they didn't know why he would do it. The clan leader wanted to continue playing, and I didn't mind. Kantai has announced the distribution of cards. McGrady will now play seriously. The main character was a little worried, and the purple-haired guy felt confident. He was waiting for what move the girl would make. Beauty wondered, the queen is a hidden card, even if her last card is bad, with this card she will be able to win. Second kings and 2 aces, McGrady said to deal the cards. I thought she would win this round. The blonde girl began to deal cards. The purple-haired guy noticed something and looked at Kantai. Kantai told them to show their cards. The guy showed his cards and he had 3 kings. McGrady was lucky in this round. He had a full house. The people behind him were surprised by his cards. The red-haired girl also had 3, only queens, but the purple-haired guy had 3 kings, so she lost. A friend of the protagonist asked Mr. McGrady to place a bet. He took the chips and threw them on the table. The purple-haired guy announced the flop. This is the decisive round. In this round 3 community cards are placed on the table, using which players can make poker hands. I couldn't believe it and asked him if he was losing. What if the girl bet all her chips now? McGrady told the girl not to pretend. This is the queen's hidden card. The full house will not beat her for. The beauty realized that he had seen her. The crowd of people admired Mr. McGrady's playing. The girl had very few chips left. The clan leader said, he doesn't think that luck is on Wani's side today. The red-haired girl looked at Kantai. After that, the main character smiled and replied, how about McGrady admit defeat? The purple-haired guy said that the girl knew him, McGrady Rochester, a famous man. He would never admit defeat. But it will be difficult for the girl to win, because the head of the clan has a lot of chips left. McGrady has an offer. This round will decide everything. That is, whoever wins this round will be the final winner. Wani replied that it was not profitable for her. McGrady said that if she agreed and won, he would fulfill any of her requests. The girl was interested in this offer. The protagonist looked at Kantai, but the girl looked away. The red-haired girl thought for a moment. The friend pretended not to know Wani. She needed the guy to promise to fulfill her wishes. This is the first time McGrady has made a bet like this. The guy smiled and said they were raising. The purple-haired guy said to wait and ordered Horace Tanner to take Kantai away and find another dealer. The white-haired man began to obey the order, took Kantai by the hand and led her somewhere. The beauty began to worry. The clan leader asked Wani if she knew this blonde girl. The red-haired beauty replied that she did not know this girl. She wanted to know her phone number. She was just very beautiful. McGrady asked if she wanted him. The girl didn't answer at all, after which the purple-haired guy got angry. An unfamiliar man approached them and introduced himself, after which he said that he would be the new dealer of this round. They played one more round, but the girl did not try. She lost all the chips in the final round. The crowd shouted that the girl had lost. The purple-haired guy said it was time for punishment. He was waiting for her to perform. The girl climbed on the table and answered, she would love to dance, but only for him. Wani can escape when he is alone with him. McGrady replied that the beauty wanted to die, after which he grabbed the girl and pulled her to him. Wani was very embarrassed and didn't understand if this guy really wanted to take off her clothes, which made her feel uncomfortable and bewildered. The purple-haired guy told the girl to beg him and then he would stop. The beauty asked why she had to beg him if the guy was just undressing her, who among the people had not seen a naked person. People were fascinated by Wani. This girl was amazing, and all the strangers wanted to be in her place. An unknown man said that the main character had a beautiful figure and he liked the character very much. He grabbed the girl's leg, but McGrady didn't like it very much. He looked at the stranger menacingly. The head of the clan kicked the unknown man in the face with all his might. He screamed and fell to the floor. The man was a little shocked by McGrady's reaction. He didn't expect to get punched in the face. The purple-haired guy stood up and picked the girl up, after which he said, he didn't say that strangers could look at this. Meanwhile the girl resisted and begged to be let go. Wani slapped McGrady on the shoulder. She told him to let her go and called the guy a pervert. But the head of the clan said that the man who wanted the girl was a pervert. Kantai wanted to stop them, but someone put a hand on her shoulder and stopped her, interrupting her intention to interfere. It was Horace Tanner, who shook his head and dissuaded the blonde girl from meddling in McGrady's affairs. The clan leader carried Wani to his room and threw her on the bed. expressing his dominance and indifference to her desires. McGrady looked at the beauty and said that the girl was behaving very badly. The red-haired girl looked around and asked why the casino had such a big bedroom. The guy replied that it wasn't the main thing. The beautiful woman held out her leg to him and thought that this was her chance to escape from here, but McGrady grabbed the girl's leg and his grip was very strong. The purple-haired guy warned the girl not to behave so badly, after which he put the main character down and began to undress. The main character could not say that he was not handsome. She began to remember this guy. The girl had already seen him before. McGrady leaned over to the girl. She was very embarrassed. The guy looked at her hair and also remembered how the girl pulled him from the sea when he was injured. The guy touched the face of the red-haired girl, and remembered how she gave him a piece of breathing. The clan leader said that his lips remembered something he couldn't forget, and then leaned towards the girl. The girl began to push the guy away, but he decided to kiss her, ignoring her resistance and demonstrating his persistence. Wa-ni didn't understand why he was doing this. McGrady grabbed her jaw. She was in a lot of pain. The beauty wanted to bite him on the tongue. The purple-haired guy stopped kissing the girl, and Wa-ni managed to push him away. But the guy grabbed the red-haired girl by the shoulders and didn't want to let go. He looked her straight in the eyes. When the beauty looked into his eyes, she saw that the color of the boy's eyes had changed to red. The red-haired girl remembered the guy by the color of his eyes. She had seen him 2 years ago in Saipan. 2 years ago on Saipan, the guy she had saved was McGrady, but she didn't want to admit it. McGrady began to take off his shirt, exposing his torso. Wa-ni was embarrassed. She liked guys with such a body. The main character quickly came to her senses. Now is not the time for her to look at this guy, so the girl needs to run away from here as quickly as possible. As soon as the girl decided to get up, McGrady grabbed her hand. She turned around and did not understand how to get out of this situation. Wa-ni couldn't get up anymore. The purple-haired guy pressed the girl to the bed very hard. They heard someone break into the casino. It was the police who arrived. The red-haired girl was lying there and didn't understand what was happening. The people in the casino started screaming. It was a special police force. They ordered all the people to get out of the casino. They had a warrant for the arrest of drug lord Hans. All the people started to run out of the casino in panic. The police asked Tong Qijan if he was sure that this was the place. The detective replied that he had never made a mistake. The detective knew that Wa-ni would come to the casino as soon as he found out about Kong Tae. There are many drug dealers in this casino. With any drug dealer business, the guy could call the special forces. He was glad that Wa-ni always reported his whereabouts. Qijan decided to look around and saw Kong Tae standing there, watching what the detective was doing. When the guy looked into the eyes of the blonde girl, he immediately understood everything. Meanwhile, there was a knock on the door of the room where the main character and McGrady were. The purple-haired guy allowed them to enter the room, after which Horace Tanner came in to report what had happened. The white-haired guy said that there were a lot of cops outside. They wouldn't come for them, but they still needed the clan leader to deal with them. McGrady agreed and decided to go with Horace. McGrady smiled, began to get dressed, and said they weren't doing anything illegal anyway. Wa-ni threw a pillow at the purple-haired guy and said that he called it not doing anything illegal. She began to chase the guy away. McGrady looked at the beauty and could not hold back his laughter. The beauty looked at McGrady and was angry. She told the guy to get out of here. The clan leader looked at the girl and thought that she was like a lamb waiting to be executed, but for some reason, she began to act like a tiger cub. This situation made him laugh. The purple-haired guy asked Horace. He didn't think it was interesting. The guy replied that he didn't understand what the clan leader was talking about. Horace leaned over and told McGrady that Tong Qijan had come here. The clan leader was surprised. The red-haired girl didn't expect Qijan to come for her, and the white-haired guy told the clan leader that Wa-ni was the detective's girlfriend, but McGrady didn't care. He liked Wa-ni, so she would be his. McGrady took the girl in his arms and said that as long as she behaved well, the guy gave his word that he would not hurt her. The girl didn't want to have anything to do with such a person. The guy does what his heart desires when he sees a girl. Every time Wa-ni thinks that Kong Tae was with a person like him, the girl is terrified. Tong Qijan was looking for Wa-ni and didn't know where she could be. He looked around all the rooms in the building. Kong Tae approached the detective and said that Wa-ni was here. He should take her away quickly. The guy asked the girl that she would not go with them. The detective revealed that Wa-ni had been looking for a blonde girl for the past 2 years. He wanted the girl to go with them. Kentai replied until she could leave. Suddenly, the radio told all the police officers to gather in the corridor for further action. In the hallway, Horace Tanner gestured at the battered man and announced that in front of them was the dealer Hans they were looking for. They should take him away quickly and not interfere with their business. Qijan was amazed at how these people get rid of theirs very quickly and abandon them once they become useless. McGrady said that the cops, their government officials, and their law-abiding citizens, the head of the clan wants to cooperate with them, but the cops shouldn't do these things. It undermines the purple-haired guy's business. Officers apologized for the inconvenience and thanked McGrady for her help in the case. The purple-haired guy looked at Tong Qijan. He knew that this guy was far from being a private detective. In fact, he was the most valuable secret agent in the world. Many wanted him dead. Rumor has it that the detective doesn't negotiate the evidence of the crimes and then uses it for his own purposes, which is why the mafia gangs hate him. Tong Qijan smiled and asked Rochester who had bitten his left cheek. The violet-haired guy turned around and looked at the detective. McGrady replied that the detective had noticed, but that a pretty fox had scratched his face. The short-haired guy asked how she could have scratched him. He would like to see this fox. The head of the Rochester clan turned around with his assistant and said that he would never get a chance to see her again. The detective clenched his fingers into a fist and was very enraged by McGrady's words. There was nothing he could do to save Wei-ni. The purple-haired guy came to the room where Wei-ni was lying on the floor and told her to continue. The girl hit him for the second time, hitting the same cheek, and the guy did not like it very much. He shows his dissatisfaction and irritation. Wei-ni replied that she would do the same if McGrady tried to do it a third or fourth time, after which she called the guy red-eyed. Horace Tanner was surprised, because when the blood rushes to the Rochester's eyes, they feel threatened, or when they are very excited, their eyes turn terribly red. Everyone who saw their red eyes died, and when Horace Tanner looked at the clan leader's relationship with the girl, he knew she was the one McGrady was looking for. The white-haired guy knew it. McGrady already had a hunch. Meanwhile, the girl decided to get up. The red-haired girl said that her friend was looking for her. If she didn't leave now, the clan leader would be in trouble. Wei-ni said goodbye. McGrady smiled and called her Lucy, who responded to the name and turned around. The purple-haired guy punched the girl in the stomach. She was surprised by the clan leader's reaction, so she couldn't react. Wei-ni couldn't stay on her feet and fell on top of McGrady, after which she lost consciousness. The guy decided not to let her go. Horace Tanner was worried that she knew Tong Qijan. Qijan hoped that Wei-ni would not let down her work experience. She had been through a lot in the past 2 years, so she should get out of here, but his thoughts were interrupted by the police, who told them to leave here. The detective waits for the girl to send a signal for help, and he will come to save the main character. Beauty dreams of Kente crying. Wei-ni apologized to her friend for looking for her for so long. Kong Tai replied that she shouldn't have come for her. But the red-haired girl didn't understand why her friend was saying that. The main character wanted to reach out to Kentai with her hand, but she couldn't do it. The main character wakes up in an unfamiliar place. A huge expensive chandelier is cheerful above her, and she was lying on the bed. The girl was shocked and decided to look around to see where she was, but she didn't know the place. Vo-ne remembered that Rochester hit her and she fell unconscious. When the girl looked at herself, she screamed because she was not wearing clothes. The red-haired girl took a sheet to cover herself. She noticed that her clothes were not there. It was difficult for her to walk in this form. When she looked out the window, the girl saw that the house was in the middle of the forest, which raised even more questions in her mind. The beauty wondered, even if she could get out of this house, the forest would be another obstacle. When the girl was standing near the window, she noticed Kentai who was talking to strangers. Strange girl said, "Yesterday McGrady brought home another girl. It was a rare sight. Since he brought Kentai here, the head of the clan carried this beauty in his arms." Kentai replied that it was his business. It was none of her business. The blonde girl turned around and decided to leave. The girl in the light-colored swimsuit decided to stop Kentai and tell her that she was fed up with her pretense. McGrady was only dating her because of the situation from 2 years ago, but the blonde girl replied that she was the only one who thought so. The stranger got angry and wanted to hit the girlfriend of the main character. She swung with all her strength and said that her happy days were already over. But she was stopped by Wei-ni, who said that she liked the stranger's swimsuit very much. which is why the red-haired girl wants to take a closer look at it. The dark-haired girl got angry and asked what Wei was doing and who she was anyway. Meanwhile, the main character looked at the woman's swimsuit. The red-haired girl was very happy that she had found clothes for herself and took off the stranger's swimsuit and said that it looked like it would fit her. Kang Tae smiled when she saw this, as her friend was the same as 2 years ago, giving her a sense of joy and nostalgia for the past. Wei was surprised that her friend smiled so genuinely, making her feel warm and happy to see each other after a long time. The blonde girl has become unemotional again. Her eyes have changed a lot in these 2 years. McGrady watched all this from the window of his house. He liked the relationship between his girlfriends. Horace Tanner asked the purple-haired guy. He was sure that there was no need to send anyone after her. She was Tong Chijan's man. She could tell him about them. The guy said that this is his personal home. There is no valuable information that can be used. He watched the girls and realized that they had something to say to each other, feeling how their emotions and conversations filled the air with warmth and mutual understanding. The white-haired guy bowed and apologized. Last time, he made a mistake. Horace Tanner wanted to be punished. McGrady forgave him because Horace had always been unkind to girls. Wei was standing in a swimsuit. It was too small for her breasts. Kan Tai explained that every day, the clothes they wear are taken away from them, so there are no extra clothes in the closets. Kan Tai decided to put slippers on the feet of the main character. The red-haired girl thanked her friend. The protagonist began to tremble and tears appeared in her eyes. She knew that the blonde girl she saw then was her friend, even if Kan Tai denied it. Wei knows why she was taken away. The red-haired girl hugged her friend and apologized because it was because of her. The blonde girl didn't want the main character to come for her. Wei replied that she now understood, the boyfriend she had rescued 2 years ago in Saipan McGrady Rochester, and when a friend went to get a diving suit, she was wanted because of Wei. The protagonist said that she would deal with him and force him to let Kan Tai go, but the blonde girl said she should wait. McGrady already knows that his subordinates made a mistake. The beauty was surprised why he suddenly addressed her friend as Lucy, feeling mixed feelings of curiosity and bewilderment. Kan Tai didn't know why the purple-haired guy knew this information, but kept calling her Lucy. She thought that the guy was trying to bully her in this way, or because he never asked for her name. The blonde girl said that all this time he had been looking for Wei. The main character was very surprised by her friend's words. That's why Kang Tae didn't want her girlfriend to come. She just fell into his trap, and that's what he wanted. But seeing how Wei thought of her friend and how she stood in front of her, Kan Tai was very happy. Wei cried at her friend's words and hugged her even harder. She wanted to take her away from here. Kang Tae told her to leave it all behind, explaining that she couldn't leave right now, perhaps with important matters or commitments in mind that required her presence. The red-haired girl thought she didn't know something. They were interrupted by Horace Tanner, who came to them. He said that Wei would go with him. McGrady wanted to see her. The girl was angry with the guy because he didn't knock on the door. Horace Tanner replied that he did not intend to repeat it. The main character began to feel a little tense, so she decided to go after the guards. The guy looked at Kang Tae as if he wanted to do something to her, causing her to feel uncomfortable and distrustful of his intentions. But the white-haired guy said that it was time for the ointment. Kang Tae undressed and turned her back to Horace. A huge scar could be seen on her back. At this time, a red-haired girl came to McGrady. The guy wanted to give her clothes so that the beauty could change her clothes, but she no longer needed clothes. The head of the clan told them to go to dinner together. Wei thought about it. Since she was the one the purple-haired guy was looking for, she didn't need to be afraid of him. She would do what he said first. After all, a person would never give up on good feats. The red-haired girl approached McGrady and said that her stomach would not refuse a good meal, after which she thanked the guy. They sat down at the table and began to eat food. The purple-haired guy showed that he was elegant, and the girl took all the food she came across. The protagonist ate all the food that was on the table and wanted more, feeling that her appetite was not yet fully satisfied. The maids were shocked at how much food she could eat, after which they brought more. McGrady noticed that the girl was happy with his food. Wei replied, "It is edible, people eat everything when they are hungry." The purple-haired guy asked the girl. She was done eating the food, he just wanted to talk. McGrady Rochester smiled and introduced himself. The guy wanted to know how to address the girl. Wei began to list how he could address her, such as an invincible little devil, a hot flower, an invincible female detective, or a queen. The head of the clan asked that she wanted to be queen. The girl was shocked that this man did not understand jokes, after which the main character took a fork and hid it behind her back. The maids noticed that the girl took a fork and hid it, after which they grabbed Wei. She could no longer move. The red-haired girl knew that the servants here had good skills. McGrady told the girl not to test his patience or she would know what was going to happen. The main character understood that the guy knew about her relationship with Kang Tae and decided to say that she was just joking. Rochester decided to ask what the girl's name was. The beauty decided to introduce herself, realizing that she had no choice in this situation, and trying to maintain politeness and goodwill in communication. McGrady Rochester smiled, glad that the girl had become more obedient and polite to him. At this time, Tong Ki-jeon called Rank. He wanted the guy to check the assets of the Rochester group and make illiquid ones a priority target. Ranker replied yes, but it took a long time. The detective wants to hear the latest news about the conflicts between the Rochester clans. McGrady's half-brother, Joseph, has been released on bail. Joseph will go after McGrady because he was the one who sent him to prison. Ranku told the detective to keep an eye on their conflict and he would be able to save Wei if he uses Joseph. After this conversation, the action took place at McGrady's house, where Horace Tanner came and told him that Joseph had been released on bail. The purple-haired guy replied that it must have cost a lot of money. Horace Tanner put the letter on the table and told the clan leader to look at it. McGrady Rochester opened the letter and it was an invitation to a birthday party. The purple-haired guy assumed that Joseph was trying to set a trap for the guy. If he refused, it wouldn't be right, so they would go, and McGrady wanted to take Lucy with him. The white-haired guy asked which Lucy they were talking about. The clan leader meant Wei. Horace realized that the purple-haired guy now knew her name. Further action took place during the day. Wei, after a few days of observation, realized that this garden-style house is almost unguarded, but the forest surrounding it is a problem. McGrady has a lot of women in this house. Either they were sent here by other clans, or they came here on their own. The guy doesn't even look them in the eye. She thought that the head of the clan wanted to emulate the royal family and have thousands of concubines, and move in every night. But the protagonist only realized this when she found out from Kang Tae that he was not interested in these girls. And he doesn't have an intimate relationship with Kang Tae. He teaches these women all sorts of techniques and takes them to dinner parties. Then the guy gives them to Elsa and gets information from them. This is a spy training camp. These women are happy to be used by McGrady. They dream of the day when they will do something for him. A maid came to Wei, who said that the owner wanted to see her, after which the main character went to McGrady. She went into the guy's room. The purple-haired guy ordered the girl to change into it. He pointed his finger at the box that contained the dress. The red-haired girl didn't understand what he was up to, but she needed to do as he said, given the situation she was in. The girl decided to go change to her room, but McGrady Rochester told her to change here. He didn't mind. Wei was against it. McGrady Rochester looked at the beauty and asked why she didn't want to do it. The red-haired girl got angry and said that the guy wanted to say he would be fine if others saw him naked. The beautiful woman turned around and said that she wasn't going to wear his dress anyway, so she'd better forget about it. When the girl was about to reach the door, there was a knock at the door, attracting her attention and causing her to stop for a moment. Suddenly, McGrady Rochester came up to her from behind and grabbed her by the clothes, after which he said that the girl had no voice. Wei wanted the guy to let her go. The purple-haired guy took off the girl's clothes in one movement, but the main character was not confused and took the guy by the shirt. Wei took off McGrady's shirt and put it on, a shirt she liked better than the dress. McGrady Rochester said it wasn't a bad thing. He thinks in the future the beauty will be able to wear his clothes. The beauty looked away and replied that it was ugly. She noticed that the guy was approaching her. The head of the clan came very close to her. He noticed that the girl had good skills. The purple-haired guy didn't need to worry about being killed. After that, a maid came to them and began to put a dress on Wei. The main character could not put it on. An unknown girl asked the head of the clan if it was necessary to bring more clothes. The purple-haired guy replied that he didn't need to do that. He wanted to see her in that dress. A week later, Wei will wear the dress and go with McGrady Rochester to Joseph's birthday party. The main character replied to the guy, "He has a lot of beautiful girls here. Why exactly should she go?" McGrady remembered that he could take Lucy with him. Wei realized that the guy was talking about Kang Tae. Wei was approached by Horace Tanner, who decided to explain to the girl why she should go with Rochester. Joseph is the master's half-brother. McGrady trapped him and sent him to prison when he wanted more power in the Rochester clan. Joseph threw a birthday party and invited clan leaders. The protagonist realized what McGrady meant when he said that she had good skills and didn't have to worry about being killed. The beauty couldn't let Kong Tae be at that dangerous party, so the girl smiled and said, "It's such a grand party, how can she not go there?" Horace Tanner knew that the red-haired girl wouldn't want Kong Tae to go to this party, so he opened the door and walked over to the clan leader. McGrady stood by the window and said he had never believed that someone would spend 2 years looking for another person. The white-haired guy answered, "Someone was silent to protect the other, she even cut off contact so that no one could find her." The clan leader turned around and agreed with the words given. Horace Tanner wondered, in this world even families build walls against each other and use any means to kill. He thinks McGrady can't understand these two girls. When Kong Tae was walking in the garden, strangers approached her. They heard that this time the owner would not take her to the party, he would take a red-haired girl with him. The girl in the yellow swimsuit never thought that she would see this day, but Kong Tae asked, the head of the clan would not take them there, why they were rejoicing. The strangers were very angry, and the girl in the yellow swimsuit replied, she is glad that Kong Tae's arrogance will stop today. She tried to hit the protagonist's friend. Kong Tae took a pair of scissors and cut the hand of the stranger who tried to hit her, after which she said that they were not newcomers here and should know that if the girls wanted their master to be nice to them, they should work for him. And if the girl has time to hate Kong Tae, then it is better to spend it trying to get McGrady Rochester to at least look her in the eye. The girls in swimsuits thought of Kong Tae as a delicate and fragile girl, but she was not an easy target. McGrady Rochester and his assistant, Horace Tanner, were watching, and the head of the clan said they were a bunch of pests. McGrady Rochester looked at a fair-haired girl who held a bouquet of roses in her hands. The purple-haired boy ordered Horace to send someone to punish them, but Horace replied that the two girls who had been sent by the Roman clan were a bad idea. The head of the clan said that this is his home, they must follow his rules. The white-haired guy agreed with the master's words. Horace Tanner decided to give his opinion about Kong Tae. He explained that this girl is not very kind to McGrady. Why won't he let her go? Rochester replied, even if he let Kong Tae go, she won't leave. Kong Tae noticed that McGrady Rochester was watching her, and then turned around and looked into his eyes. And the purple-haired guy remembered how this girl was brought to him. She was trembling all over and did not understand what would happen to her. He approached her and asked if the costume belonged to her, and what the girl's name was, causing her to feel a sense of fear. The blonde girl was very afraid of McGrady Rochester. He wanted to touch her, but she started screaming. The guy told the girl to calm down, he just wanted to thank her for saving her. Suddenly, there was an explosion on the yacht, and the guards ran in, explaining that they had been attacked. Kong Tae was even more frightened. McGrady said that they had failed their plans and now they were just attacking, so they needed to be taught a lesson. After that, the blonde girl was taken hostage by a stranger. The man demanded that Rochester let him go, and he would not do anything to her. The girl screamed at the purple-haired guy to save her, feeling desperate and hoping for help in her time of need. But McGrady Rochester asked the man that was mocking why he should care about this girl. Kong Tae was shocked by such words. A man in glasses took the blonde girl and took her somewhere, causing excitement and questions about the fate of the girl. When the Rochesters found her, she was already wounded. The wound was in the form of a burn on her back and it was very severe. She had to be in intensive care for a whole month and Kong Tae is still treating this wound to this day. Kong Tae was the man they found in the middle of the shootout. McGrady has no reason to mistreat her. Even if she's not the Lucy the guy was looking for, McGrady will just accept her for who she is. He waits for the day when the girl herself tells him so. But now that Kong Tae doesn't cause him any problems, he will gladly let the girl become the mistress of the house, and the purple-haired guy won't let anyone hurt her. Wani ran to the blonde girl. She shouted that she saw two women walking towards her. Kong Tae said that she was fine. Wani wanted to see if Kong Tae had hurt herself. She replied that she was fine. She had heard McGrady calling her. But why? The beauty replied, nothing special, he just wanted the girl to go to the party with him. Kong Tae hugged the red-haired girl, and said that she was very worried about her. It was better for her to stay here. McGrady Rochester wondered a little why his girlfriends hugged on the street, making him feel curious and surprised by such behavior in a public place. The red-haired girl agreed to this because she didn't want Kong Tae to go there, her friend didn't understand why. The blonde girl said, "The main character thinks she is weak and clumsy." Wa-ni replied, "That's not the point." Wa-ni explained that she had made her suffer so much, the girl didn't want to repeat old mistakes. Kang Tae touched the lips of the beauty with her finger. The red-haired girl was sure they would leave here. Her friend replied that she wanted to help her. McGrady Rochester didn't understand. Girls hugging in his garden. He's a very handsome guy and they don't even notice him. Horace Tanner explained that girls just express their friendship. But Horace Tanner was more interested in what they were talking about, showing his curiosity and desire to know what their conversation was about. Meanwhile, a man in the house slams his hands on the table, and says how McGrady could have set a trap and put him in jail. That man was Joseph Rochester, McGrady's half-brother. If he hadn't been caught, he would have been the leader of Clan Rochester. Joseph's men reported that they had no substantial evidence. The information only came to McGrady. The man asked if that was enough. One of the guards ran in and told them that McGrady Rochester had accepted birthday invitations. Joseph did not understand why he had accepted the invitation. The man suggested that McGrady was too brave. Joseph thought that he would not come. Now the man would slander him in front of the Sea Otter elders. His subordinates asked the man why he did not try to set a trap for McGrady. The stranger replied that it was a great opportunity. The guards asked who was there and how he got there. It was Tong Chi-jean. He told them to calm down. The guy is here to tell Joseph that he has evidence that McGrady committed the crime. He wants to cooperate with the man. Joseph's guards realized that he could not become the leader of the clan due to being too easily confused. The man was shocked to see the policeman. The detective hates McGrady too, so he started working with them. Meanwhile, at McGrady's estate in Rochester, a red-haired girl sat and said she was hungry. Kang Tae was worried about Wa-ni. She wanted to cook something for her friend. The maid was against it. The blonde girl had no right to be stopped, because when it came to Wa-ni, she didn't have to listen to the maid. The maid explained that the clan leader had told her to abstain from eating for a few days to get rid of the excess weight. The red-haired girl shouted that it was all muscle. A man had told a girl with muscles to come to him and keep him company at dinner tonight, and Wa-ni was glad, but when she turned she saw Rochester. She didn't want to go with him. The guy didn't care if she wanted to or not. He ordered the guards to take the red-haired girl. Wa-ni didn't want to be touched, because she could go by herself. She grabbed Kang Tae's hands and told her not to worry about her. She would be back soon. The girl had to be careful on the way. The purple-haired guy kicked the girl to stop wishful thinking. The beauty couldn't believe that McGrady Rochester had hit her. The blonde girl wanted to ask if the main character was okay. Kang Tae decided to stop the clan leader because she also wanted to go to Joseph's birthday party with them, but she heard a negative answer. McGrady explained that it would be too dangerous there. He would only take Wa-ni with him. His girlfriend was a little confused when she heard such an answer. The protagonist was glad that Kang Tae wouldn't go to this dangerous place, but she was angry at the guy. It seems that the girlfriend of the main character is not going anywhere this time and this upset her a little. The head of the clan took Wa-ni by the hand and led her somewhere. The girl did not understand where they were going, and she did not really want to follow this guy. Standing in front of the door was a man who worked for Rochester, who greeted them and informed them that the reserved table was ready. When they went out the door and saw a lot of people, all the people in the room were surprised that she came in a bathrobe and slippers. She had messy uncombed hair. She thought McGrady wanted to humiliate her. She needed not to embarrass herself. The beauty would not be defeated. She needed to behave elegantly. The purple-haired guy did not understand what the girl was doing. He was not used to waiting for women. They sat at a table near palm trees. Outside, there was a swimming pool not far from them, and the girl watched the guy eat his food. She was very hungry. The red-haired girl was filled with anger. She didn't understand why she only ate McGrady, but he said that Wa-ni would keep him company, but she would not get food. The beauty fell on the table. She knew that the guy was up to something. McGrady knocked on the table and said if she wanted food, let her come here. Her even more start. It's to make her angry. He shouldn't have been joking with her. The guy thinks she'll do what he wants. But the red-haired girl still sat down beside McGrady, her main strength being to keep her stomach from hurting. As soon as Wa-ni took the fork in her hands and wanted to eat something, the purple-haired guy put the plate aside. He won't give her rice porridge. The head of the clan explained that she couldn't go to the party if she gained weight again. In any case, the guy didn't care what condition she was in. McGrady Rochester decided to get close to the girl's face and look her in the eye. When I turned away, the purple-haired guy realized that the girl didn't want to run away after he brought her to his house. McGrady Rochester is a famous and rich man, he is powerful and influential, many women would like to be with him. The guy smiled and then took the girl by the waist. He wanted Wei to obey him. The beauty said that they were watched by many people who were interested in their relationship. She did not want to make headlines. The head of the clan ordered the guards to remove all the people. The girl did not understand why he was doing this and what he was up to. The red-haired girl was shocked that McGrady would do whatever he wanted and no one would do anything to him. An unknown man wondered what was going on in this place. It had become too noisy. That stranger turned out to be Joseph, who immediately realized that McGrady was behind it all. At the same time, the purple-haired guy threw Wei into the pool. The girl didn't understand why he was doing this. The guy thought that it would help her remember everything. The main character was sitting in the pool. She understood that the guy already knew that she had saved him 2 years ago. The guy replied, "Some girl made him kiss her. He thinks that Wei looks a lot like her." Wei didn't understand what was happening to this guy. She was terrified. The thought flashed through her head as to why she was saving him in the first place. McGrady walked over to the girl and touched her face, then said it was her. The beauty looked at him and remembered only the idiot who had run away and owed her a round sum of money. The clan leader replied that this guy was such a fool. If the purple-haired guy were in his place, he would pay her in full. The girl didn't need his money. She just prayed to God that this man wouldn't create more problems. The purple-haired guy asked why. The girl regrets that she saved this man. If it hadn't happened, her lives with Kong Tae didn't work out this way, so the girl regrets this act. The guy said to repeat again. As soon as the girl decided to repeat these words again, McGrady kissed her. It was as if he was sucking all the life force out of her. She could not escape from his strong arms. He used this dirty trick again, causing the girl to be irritated and bewildered by his cunning and dishonesty. They stopped kissing and Wei couldn't help but face this guy. McGrady asked how she was. She was still sorry. With tears in her eyes and embarrassment, Wei shouted that the purple-haired guy was an ordinary bandit. She decided to kick him with all her might. But Rochester grabbed her leg and asked where she was aiming. The guy was a little furious with the girl's reaction. This action provoked McGrady, so he began to take off Winnie's clothes, causing her embarrassment. A man approached them, and it was strange for him to see this. Joseph stood in front of them with his hands in his pockets. The man asked mockingly, and they rolled off the bed into the pond. The man with the scar didn't expect to ever see McGrady's face full of desire. The long-haired guy replied that he had always been like this. The main character did not understand who was standing in front of them and what he wanted. The half-brother was smiling. He didn't think they would meet again. McGrady looked great and it annoyed him. McGrady Rochester told the red-haired girl to wear her clothes properly. The girl began to threaten him with her fists and say that he had started taking them off himself. Wei slapped the guy on the head. Joseph laughed. She didn't look like the girls he'd had. A girl approached the man with the scar and asked McGrady if he had pulled the girl out of the garbage can, because the purple-haired guy had elegant and luxurious girls. Joseph looked at the red-haired girl and said that she had a good figure. Wei began to be very angry with these people. The half-brother hopes he doesn't bring this girl to the birthday party so she doesn't ruin their party. McGrady Rochester smiled and told the man not to say anything bad about her, because that little tiger cub might bite. The man turned his head and replied she was a girl or a pet. The purple-haired guy answered she both. Wei hit the guy again. They drove home, after which the red-haired girl tried on a dress. She was given a bulletproof vest. It was not surprising that McGrady wanted her to lose weight. Wei got dressed and decided to show off. She asked how she looked in their eyes, adding that there was no bulletproof vest visible. Everyone was looking at her with admiration. Kong Tae asked how dangerous the place was. She shouldn't have worried. The girl had already talked to the guy. My best friend said that a red-haired girl shouldn't believe those words, but if that's the way to get out of here, then it's worth a try. The blonde girl gave her earrings to Wei to wear. Her friend knew she couldn't stop her. The protagonist didn't understand why she would do it, but Kong Tae wanted it and the girl should remember to be careful. The friend looked at Wei and smiled. She was very beautiful. The main character asked Kong Tae, "The girl is so rich." A purple-haired guy walked in. He made sure he had good taste when he looked at Wei. The guy asked Horace what he thought. He didn't want to embarrass the clan leader, McGrady was very handsome in the girl's eyes, after which he said that it was time for them. The girl took McGrady Rochester's hand and thought that after that birthday, she and her friend would leave the Rochester house. But Wani was wrong. She didn't expect this party to drag her into the conflict of the Rochester clans. The main characters boarded a large cruise ship, which set off. It was guarded by boats sailing with it, and helicopters accompanied it from above. There were a lot of people on the cruise ship, and the whole atmosphere said that everything here was very expensive, giving visitors the impression of luxury and sophistication. The host on the stage greeted the attendees. He thanked the people who came to Joseph Rochester's birthday party and announced that the party would take place over 2 days. Everyone congratulated the man on his birthday. He wanted everyone to enjoy this event, especially since all the clan leaders were here. Joseph continued to be an important figure, causing attention and respect among those present. Joseph's girlfriend said that he was supposed to be the head of the clan. The man replied, "They need to be patient, they have to maintain their authority through this party." In front of them, the strange girl looked away and couldn't contain her delight when she saw McGrady. A man with a scar on his face saw the guy and greeted his younger brother with a smile. He was very glad that the purple-haired guy came. Joseph put his elbow on McGrady's shoulder. His accompanying Horace Tanner said that he was being very rude. McGrady removed his brother's elbow from his shoulder and mockingly replied that it was very good that he had been released before the party. These words angered the man. Joseph's girlfriend approached them to lighten the atmosphere a bit. She said if McGrady didn't have a partner, she could ask some nice girls to keep him company. The purple-haired guy didn't need a partner, she just had fun on her own. Joseph laughed. He hoped the guy didn't take that girl he saw in the pool. McGrady turned around and left. He needed to find the clan elders to say something. The man was very angry at the little brother. As the scarred man walked around the liner, he noticed a man in a suit approaching him and telling him that the young owner of the family had been beaten by a woman. He did not understand how this was possible. The young master shouted, "How dare the girl hit him? She knows who he is." She didn't care who he was, and the red-haired girl didn't even hit him. The stranger told her to stop pretending to be a victim. The girl would go with him if she didn't get involved with a rich guy. He knew people like Wani. The beauty replied that even if she wants to sleep with someone, she needs to know if the guy looks good or not. The unknown guy was struck by these words. He really did not like it when girls talk about the appearance of a guy. While the stranger was lying down, it was better for Wani to escape. McGrady allowed her to sail unguarded after they stepped on board. Each of the people on the ship could take 2 or 3 people to protect him in case of any conflict between the clans. The main character did not trust Joseph. She walked around the liner and found the place where the lifeboat is. Now she needs to find a wetsuit. Wani heard a familiar voice, and she turned to see Joseph in front of her, who laughed and made sure she was the McGrady girl. The man walked over to the red-haired girl and touched her face. He saw that Wani was a little different today. Today McGrady cheered up Joseph, so he decided to take the girl away from him. The way the beauty looked at the others annoyed him. After her look, Joseph gets goosebumps. The elder brother offered Wani a drink with him. The man promised to take her to the most luxurious room on this ship. The girl refused because she was looking for a wetsuit. A battered stranger interjects into the conversation. He promises that Wani will die today, but when the man sees Joseph, he thinks it is his girlfriend. But the man with the scar dispelled these thoughts. He said that it was one of the girls to cheer up. Wani pondered. This guy knew that she came with McGrady. The stranger grabbed the girl by the hand, shouting to the beauty not to pretend. He wanted her to follow him and quickly. Wani didn't want to use McGrady's name to escape from danger. The girl didn't even want to remember it. The battered guy told the girl not to even beg him. Wani didn't care what the stranger was saying. Joseph wants to look at McGrady's facial expressions when he sees his girlfriend dating another guy, and this will humiliate the guy in front of the elders as soon as people find out about it. Older brother McGrady ordered his men to keep an eye on Wani. For a moment he wondered. It was all very strange. Why the girl didn't take advantage of the fact that her partner was McGrady Rochester. At this time, Wani tied up the stranger and taunted him in his room, but he was already unconscious. The beauty decided to leave the room and opened the door. There were men lying in front of her. She did not understand what had happened here. The guy told her that someone wanted to take a picture of the girl and the beaten stranger to tarnish McGrady's name. Wani looked at the guy. It was Tong Ki Jean. He asked the beauty to help him pull these people out. The girl wondered what he was doing here. He needed proof that McGrady had committed a crime. so he was working with Joseph. The red-haired girl said that he had sent her with this stranger on purpose. The guy replied in the negative. There was no reason for him to do it. Qijan smiled and asked, when the girl became McGrady's partner, the beauty replied that she had her reasons for doing so. The detective told the girl not to think that McGrady would let her and Kong Tai go after all this. Ni replied, he had no reason to keep them, after all, she was the one who saved him. The guy was surprised. He would never have thought that it was the purple-haired guy who had been saved by a girl 2 years ago. Tong Qijan explained that Joseph would definitely do something to humiliate McGrady in front of the leaders. When the girl was with Rochester, she needed to be very careful. He added that they would pretend they didn't know each other, but he would secretly help her. The main character smiled and thanked the detective. The guy bent down to kiss the girl, but suddenly the bell rang. Winnie picked up the phone and answered the phone, and McGrady shouted from the phone, wanting the girl to go to the banquet. The red-haired girl asked him why he was screaming. She was already walking, after which she hung up. The purple-haired guy was even more angry that the girl dared to hang up the phone, the first beauty to talk to him like that. The beauty was already leaving. Tong Qijan was very worried about the girl and cursed McGrady. The purple-haired guy sat and waited for Ni. The women gathered around him and began to gossip. They did not understand why the guy was alone. The strangers thought that he just did not bring his partner with him. McGrady was losing patience. He didn't know how long he had to wait for the girl. For a moment he thought she was lost and why Horace hadn't found her. The guy thought that she had run away. Suddenly a girl in a red dress approached McGrady. She was not sure if the boyfriend remembered her, but the unknown girl was always thinking about him. The girl reached out to the purple-haired guy and continued talking, but McGrady told her not to touch him. The unknown girl was shocked by the words she heard. The guy looked at her and told her to get out of here. Suddenly, Joseph came in and asked why he was still waiting for Ni, and explained that he had seen a man take his girlfriend away. The man with the scar looked at McGrady and added, let the purple-haired guy guess what the man was doing to her. McGrady was perfectly calm. He explained to his older brother that if he hadn't known her, he wouldn't have brought this girl here. Ni came to them. She asked if Rochester had been waiting for her long. Joseph was shocked when he saw the girl. The purple-haired guy grabbed Winnie's cheek with his fingers and said that she was the first girl who made him wait for the girl to compensate for this. The beauty pointed her finger at the food and said that she would go to dinner with him. The guy leaned over to the red-haired girl and said that she knew what the consequences would be if the beauty continued to provoke him. He grabbed Winnie's hand and told her to go to the room with him, but the girl was against it because she wanted to eat. McGrady looked at the girl and said he wanted her. She was shocked by the guy's words. Ni told the guy to wait because the day wasn't over yet. The visitors were watching and everyone was shocked by McGrady's words. It's very rare to see a purple-haired guy being so intimate with a girl. As they walked down the hallway, the protagonist reported that her necklace was missing and needed to be found. The purple-haired guy told the girl to forget about it, but she replied that this necklace was lent to her by Kong Tai and she had to return it. The guy slammed his hand on the wall and resolutely promised to find someone who would help him find the lost necklace or just buy her a new one if they couldn't find it. He was already tired of listening to the girl's excuses. The red-haired girl got angry and said she didn't agree to sleep with him. At this time, the bound guards began to wake up. They were in pain, and they called out to the young master. When the boys looked around, they saw a young master on the floor. The guards realized that he was already dead, and then screamed. In McGrady's room, the guy grabbed Winnie's arm and told her that her petty tricks could work on anyone, but not on him. He went on to tell the girl that her actions and words were nothing more than a simple flirtation. Nei didn't understand that this guy didn't see how she constantly rejected him. McGrady looked into the girl's eyes. They seemed very seductive to him. The girl remembered Kong Tai's words that he had a lot of women in the house and McGrady was not interested in them, but with her, he behaved like a hungry wolf. The red-haired girl didn't want to stay with this strange guy. She wanted to be Tong Qijan's girlfriend. Qijan is very mysterious. He treated her well. She remembered how many times he helped her and pulled her out of difficult situations. The guy was always grateful to her for trusting him. The detective carried her in his arms and said that Ni had to take care of herself. He couldn't be with her all the time. Suddenly, McGrady stopped. The girl thought he had heard the beauty calling Qijan for help. But the purple-haired guy told me to take off my clothes. The main character was embarrassed and replied that it was a waterproof vest. it was not easy to take off. When they screamed to the whole room that the guy them, all the people noticed that the head was already there and fell silent. The purple-haired guy assumed that Master K's rival was behind it. Joseph replied that it was too logical. The guy noticed how everyone looked at them strangely. One of the strangers shouted that the red-haired girl had killed the master. Wa'anai walked over and asked if he meant her. McGrady looked at the girl and asked what was going on. The beauty replied, the young master had plans for her, and she just hit him. The blonde guy said the girl pretended to be an escort and came on board. Most likely she has an ulterior motive and is with someone. The beauty entered the room with the master and the guards outside had disappeared for some reason. The girl thought that Qizhan had done all this. Wa'anai wondered how Qizhan got on this ship, but she couldn't expose him now. The red-haired girl said she didn't kill him. Wa'anai was sure he was still alive when she left. The stranger replied that she had no proof. McGrady took a step and said he had brought the girl here. All the people were shocked. The purple-haired guy asked the beauty why the girl didn't even tell them who she was when they bullied her. Wa'anai replied that she would handle everything on her own. The older brother's girlfriend was surprised that it was the girl in the swimsuit they had seen recently. Joseph replied, he didn't recognize her because she didn't look like yesterday. The red-haired girl was angry. She knew he was lying. The blonde guy pointed his finger at Wa'anai and said, even if so, she is still the prime suspect. Horace Tanner couldn't stay away and replied that the guy wanted to say that McGrady was behind this case. Why would the clan leader do this to the young master? The stranger was a little confused and didn't know how to answer such a question. The girl now understood that despite who the killer was, Joseph wanted to cause trouble for McGrady, and he could solve this problem without Wa'anai. The purple-haired guy unexpectedly asked who said no. Whoever tries to touch his girlfriend will die. The guy asked how Wa'anai felt. She was shocked by such words. The white-haired guy asked McGrady what those facial expressions were. All the people were scared to see such a Rochester. The purple-haired guy explained, usually people he doesn't like go to be eaten by sharks. If he killed the young master, then his body wouldn't be found. Since it happened during Joseph's party, he had to take up the investigation. The older brother didn't understand why he left it to him. Joseph replied, then he would lock Wa'anai in jail. McGrady took the girl's hand and decided to leave. The man with the scar pondered, McGrady covers the girl in front of everyone. The more he learns that she is important to him, the more he wants her. The girl took the man's hand and replied that she knew what he was thinking. Joseph laughed and began to make excuses. Meanwhile, the red-haired girl wondered who was behind this murder. The assassin did it. After she left, Qizhan told her to leave first. The girl doesn't think he knew McGrady would take her with him and that's why he wasn't going to save her. Wa'anai has to find a way to talk to Qizhan. McGrady asked the girl if she was hiding something from him. The beauty turned around and asked the guy why he had helped her. The purple-haired guy asked if she didn't like it, and the girl replied that it made her feel confused and even some anxious. The guy decided to ask the girl if she knew why he let her go for a walk alone. As soon as they got on board, the girl replied it was because McGrady was dating clan members. He walked over to Wa'anai and answered. The guy hoped that the red-haired girl would remember him as soon as she ran into trouble. McGrady wanted the beauty to trust him. Wa'anai looked at the purple-haired guy, hoping her heart would beat faster. But the beauty got goosebumps. McGrady smiled. He wasted his time on her. The guy has to do it right now. McGrady pounced on the girl. She was embarrassed and tried to break free from his embrace. The guy was like a beast. Horace Tanner walked into the room and started coughing. He apologized for interrupting them, but the clan leaders were waiting for McGrady. The purple-haired guy thought that, as always, Horace was not coming at the right time. The girl told him to get up, because she was already tired. The guy patted Wa'anai on the head and told her if she was bullied again, just let her say that she was with McGrady. The beauty thought for a moment. He knew that people would come for her to plot but the guy let her go anyway. Wa'anai smiled, realizing that the guy was using her as bait, so she had to pretend that she didn't understand anything. As Horace Tanner and McGrady went to the clan leaders, the purple-haired guy explained that this assassin would continue to pursue Wa'anai. Their goal was to remove McGrady from the position of leader of the Rochester clan and they were the ones who killed the young master. The more they act, the more mistakes they make. With them it will be easier for him to find that guy. Horace Tanner asked if he meant Joseph, but McGrady replied that he wasn't as cunning as that guy. McGrady said, let Joseph do what he wants. Horace just has to keep an eye on Wa'anai secretly. He accepted the order. the white-haired guy thought he saw Qijan in a crowd of people. At this time, Wen-I remembered that when she left the young master's room, she was wearing the necklace. She dropped it somewhere in the hallway. The red-haired girl saw a huge crowd of people in front of her. She thought that Joseph was taking all this very seriously. The girl wanted to ask Joseph how their case was going, but he was a very unpleasant man. She heard someone say that no one could enter here and paid attention to this. She wondered if Qijan might be helping Joseph with the investigation. He said he had come with this man. The protagonist decided to ask him about it, but lost Qijan. She began to look for him. After a short search, she found the detective. The girl did not understand who he was talking to. A man with a scar from some kind of spray approached her from behind. He pressed a button and sprayed the liquid. The girl turned around and saw the man, then slapped Joseph in the face with all her might. He did not expect such a strong blow, so he was thrown back a little. Qijan heard some sound in the hallway, so he told the stranger to go faster from here. Wen-I didn't think it was Joseph and was a little surprised when she saw him. The beauty began to cough, everything began to blur in her eyes, she could not stand on her feet. The detective noticed this and ran up to her. A guy with glasses grabbed the red-haired girl to keep her from falling and asked the man what he was doing. Joseph replied that she was watching him and he hadn't even noticed. She had to be taken to the man's room. He had never seen McGrady so gentle with a girl. Wen-I woke up in an unfamiliar place. Her hands were tied and she had a headache. She didn't know what had happened. When the girl saw Joseph in front of her, she was surprised. He was standing with a bottle of wine and smiling. The man said that it was his birthday, but his brother did not even drink with him. Since Wen-I is his girlfriend, he wants her to drink with him. The beauty replied that let him make him, she is not going to drink. The red-haired girl looked at the man with the scar and said he knew she was McGrady's girlfriend, but the older brother was acting like that anyway. The man replied, there are always a lot of women around McGrady. The girl thinks that he will always be with her. Wen-I said that she doesn't care. The elder brother realized that this girl was undoubtedly unique. McGrady warned him that the beauty could bite, after which he decided to pour a bottle of wine on Wen-I. He wondered how she would be able to do something in such a state. The man laughed and said that it was very beautiful. Joseph noticed that there was some wine left on the girl's chest, so he bent down to drink. But Wen-I tore off the pipe to which she was tied and struck the scarred man on the head with all her might. The beauty replied that Joseph would need to make sure that he tied the girl's hands to an object that could support her. After these words, the red-haired girl decided to hit the man with a pipe, but he dodged the blow. The girl warned Joseph that if this happened again, it wouldn't be just a few blows. The man was furious at Wen-I's arrogance. The red-haired girl wondered if they were going to take it. But why was this man so weak? The door opened in front of her and a woman came into the room and asked what Wen-I was doing in her husband's room. The main character looked at Joseph's wife very threateningly, after which she replied that let her husband tell her everything himself. The girl became scared. Wen-I noticed Qijan standing silently and looking at the girl. He was glad that she was okay. Joseph yelled for his wife to stop the red-haired girl, but the woman got angry and asked what he was up to. Wen-I and Qijan decided to leave them and leave. The beauty decided to ask the detective what happened to the young master. The guy replied that she should not think about it. Qijan explained that the girl needed to stay in the room so that she wouldn't be dragged into what was going to happen. The red-haired girl thought for a moment and asked if the detective had killed the master to frame McGrady. In the beginning, the guy wanted to kill the person who would come with McGrady, but he didn't think it would be Wen-I. The detective struck the girl's head with his finger and replied that the beauty had a very rich imagination. The guy told the red-haired girl to come back and started to leave himself. Wen-I was very worried about Qijan, so she wished him to be careful. It was unexpected for the detective, so he walked up to the girl and took her by the waist. She didn't understand what the guy was doing. Qijan leaned over to Wen-I and asked if she recognized that the girl had feelings for him. Wen-I was embarrassed, turned away and replied no. The detective was amused. The girl first needed to look at her face. He did not understand why the beauty denied his words. After that, the guy hugged the main character. A sincere smile appeared on Qijan's face. He really loved the girl very much. When they catch McGrady and rescue Wen-I's girlfriend, the detective promises that they will stop and go about their normal lives. At that time, Joseph woke up. He had a very bad headache. He did not understand what had happened or how he had fallen asleep. The man looked ahead and saw his wife lying in front of him, who was covered in blood. he screamed at what he saw. He remembered drinking in the kitchen, and his wife asked him how Joseph dared to touch the McGrady woman, if he wasn't afraid of his little brother. The woman wouldn't care if he was in a higher position than McGrady's, but now his brother was the leader of the clan. She hoped the man would behave appropriately. Joseph drank too much alcohol and this made him very angry, so he took the bottle and hit his wife on the head. His wife fell down, clutched her head, and said she had been as kind to him as he could have hit her after all that had happened. The scarred man screamed, "Stop whining," dizzy and his memories were interrupted. Joseph couldn't believe he had killed the woman. After a poker game is demonstrated, an unknown man says that Joseph's party is a complete mess. McGrady sat opposite the man, who said that someone had killed the young master and that Joseph was hanging around somewhere. The purple-haired guy thinks that Joseph knows who is behind the murder. The man sitting next to him responds, and McGrady speaks as if he knows who killed him. The guy smiled and said that maybe he knew who the killer was. Suddenly the guards heard someone running towards them and calling McGrady's name. Joseph ran up to them and yelled at McGrady to bring his girlfriend because she had killed his wife. All the people in the room turned around to see what had happened. McGrady didn't understand why his girlfriend would do that. Joseph explained, the purple-haired guy made his girlfriend go after him. She wanted to hurt him, but his wife closed him and got hurt. The younger brother came up and said, she has a head injury, let her accept his condolences. The man could not stay and screamed. McGrady explained, he told Joseph to investigate the murder of the young master. His girlfriend could not be involved in this incident. The man with the scar shouted that only his girlfriend was to blame. A stranger with short hair said that Joseph was not addressing the clan leader correctly. This is the second time McGrady's girlfriend has been dragged into a problem. He has to talk to her. The purple-haired guy agrees to talk to her, after which he asks Joseph why he always aims at her. The scarred man replied because it was her fault. Meanwhile McGrady called Horace Tanner and asked where Lucy was and ordered her to be brought in. Horace Tanner explained that she had entered her room, and he was going to fetch her now. In her room, the girl was toweling her hair and body because she was covered in wine and had an allergic reaction on her breasts. Vo and I decided to wipe her breasts and noticed that they were wearing white powder, which was what she was allergic to. The red-haired girl heard footsteps outside the door. She knew there was someone there and it wasn't McGrady. She began to peer into the shadows and saw that the stranger had taken out a pistol with a silencer to kill the girl, after which a shot was fired. The beauty clutched her stomach. She realized that she was not doing well. When she looked at who opened the door, she realized who it was. The next action takes place in the room where McGrady was standing, and he asked Horace Tanner where Vo and I was. The white-haired guy replied that she had entered the room, but when he came to pick her up, she was already gone. Joseph yelled that she had escaped. McGrady had brought her here to kill him. The man with the scar remembered how Chi-Jean had told him that Joseph should just put all the blame on McGrady today. Now he had to do everything as the detective said. Big Brother said for the clan leaders to look at it. He had to be next, the one who had to take the position of the clan head. How could he be the clan head? McGrady got tired of listening to the man and told Horace that they had better leave, but Joseph didn't like it. He was just ignored. He didn't understand where McGrady was going. He assumed that the guy was trying to cover for Wa and I. As the purple-haired guy walked out of the room, the guy asked Horace Tanner, he's sure he's been watching Lucy closely. The white-haired guy paused and looked at McGrady. He didn't understand why the clan leader had asked this question. Horace stopped and replied that he had followed Wa and I, and then he saw her with Chi-Jean. The guy wanted to tell her, so he left her for a while. Immediately after that, she left. The purple-haired guy knew what Horace was up to. It was all for the sake of one woman. McGrady told him not to worry. He would deal with her when he returned. The white-haired guy was shocked by the words of the clan leader. McGrady said he wouldn't let the two of them go if anything happened to Wa and I, and Horace replied if the chapter was talking too much about her. The clan leader replied that it didn't matter. He had seen her silhouette for the past 2 years. Every time he closed his eyes, even if she belonged to Chi-Jean, even if she hated him, he wouldn't let her go. The white-haired guy understood everything. It seemed that McGrady cared about her. He replied that the guy should not worry. Wa and I was fine, but even if he decided to save her, McGrady would not stop him from doing what the guy had in mind. After that, Joseph ran up to the man and told him to save him. McGrady would definitely kill Joseph, but the bearded man replied that he was on his side because if he became the leader of the Rochester clan, he would give his casino to him. The scarred man sat and drank wine. He thanked his wife and the young master for the fact that the clan leaders supported him. Joseph drank to them. Suddenly, Horace Tanner opened the door. He was looking at the elder brother of the clan leader. He was holding a pistol with a silencer, with which he shot Joseph. At this time, Wa-ni woke up. She was lying in an unknown place. She was in pain. The girl hoped that she had not broken a rib. She recalled that Horace Tanner came to her with a gun. The girl could not believe that he attacked her. Wa-ni thought it was McGrady's order. In any case, the beauty had to see where she was. When the girl went upstairs and opened the door, she saw that she was on a small boat. Wa-ni was no longer on the liner. She remembered seeing several small boats sailing behind him. The girl thought she was on one of them. The stranger shouted why the beauty came out. He approached the girl and told her to behave. The red-haired girl wanted to hit the guy, but heard a shot somewhere near her. The girl turned around and saw McGrady standing with a machine gun on the boat. Wa-ni did not understand why he had come to help her. McGrady asked the girl. She was waiting for Chi-Jean. The beauty immediately answered positively to this question. The purple-haired guy said that she was too honest. When the clan leader decided to approach Wa-ni to inspect her wound, the girl slapped him on the arm. The purple-haired guy asked what was wrong with her. She had become too heartless. Wa-ni replied. He knew that people were plotting against him, but he still left her alone as bait. The clan leader realized that the girl had already guessed, so he asked who was plotting against them. Wa-ni walked away from the guy and replied that the plot was only against him. The red-haired girl thought that the 4 clan leaders who were at Joseph's birthday party were supporting him. She felt that McGrady was using them to banish people who thought differently from him. The head of the clan praised her. The protagonist understood that everyone had already pointed their weapons at McGrady. The guy explained that everyone wanted to kill him, but in the middle of that, there was someone who was starting the fire, causing them problems and making them prime suspects. He asked the girl who she thought it was. The beauty thought about the detective. It was he who did all this to achieve his goal and destroy McGrady. The purple-haired guy looked at the girl and said that he already knew who was doing all this. He was sure it was Chi-Jean. When-ni replied that Horace was the one who attacked her, so it was him. But McGrady replied that Horace was being manipulated by someone. He was just being used. McGrady told the girl to forget about it. He wanted to show her something interesting. In the meantime, so many people had gathered around Joseph. They could not believe that he was dead. There was a necklace on his back, and people looked at it and knew it belonged to McGrady's partner. The stranger said that Joseph had investigated the first case, but he had died, and the bearded man had concluded that McGrady wanted to kill them all. The man looked at Joseph and realized that the necklace was originally lying as if someone wanted to frame McGrady. Meanwhile, the bearded man ordered his men to find and kill McGrady. Horace Tanner overheard this conversation, turned around and decided to leave. He ran to the top of the ship, and there he met Chi-Jean, who was already waiting for him. The white-haired guy said that he had done what he asked. Horace wanted to get something. Chi-Jean took out a flash drive that contained information about the birth of Horace Tanner. The detective smiled and said that it looked like Horace could be the next leader of the Rochester clan. The white-haired guy stretched out his hand and said, "Throw the flash drive to him." Chi-Jean asked where Wa-ni was. He said that he would bring her here. Horace replied that she was fine. As soon as he checked the information and left the place, the detective would know where she was. Chi-Jean gave the flash drive to the guy. He went to check the information. When he checked it, got on a helicopter and told the detective that Wa-ni was on the 6th small boat, and one person was looking after her. The guy with the headphones thought for a moment. He told McGrady about it. But how did Chi-Jean know that he wanted to hide the secret of his birth? After all, they first met him at the Hilton Hotel. At the hotel, Chi-Jean approached Horace and told him that the white-haired boy grew up in the Rochester orphanage. At the age of 10 he became McGrady's bodyguard. The detective asked, the guy always thought he was an orphan. And if the guy finds out that the death of his parents is somehow related to the Rochesters, Horace Tanner, will he continue to help McGrady? The white-haired guy remembered how Kong Tae had told him that each of the people wanted to know who they really were. The blonde girl turned around and continued to say that in any case, this was also a source of information. When the guy left in the helicopter, he thought that Kong Tae was right, but he was immediately surprised when he looked at the liner. Near the ship were many boats carrying Rochester troops who surrounded the liner. But it was not clear what they were doing here, because each clan could only take 2 or 3 people with them. Horace didn't understand how McGrady could have taken so many people with him, the purple-haired guy got a call and was told that Horace's helicopter had left. McGrady said that let him fly away, the main thing for him is that they sail after the big liner. The main character was shocked by what was happening. She only now realized that there were a lot of boats around. People on the liner told the chief that McGrady and his girlfriend had disappeared, and the helicopter and lifeboats were missing, the ropes holding the boats were broken, and the phones could not be used either. The man with the beard screamed. He knew that McGrady wanted to destroy them all at once, but suddenly the voice of the clan leader rang out. He said that he was not going to do this. He was not interested in their lives. The chief didn't understand where the guy was hiding and where he was watching them from. He told the purple-haired guy to come to them and they would sort it out. If someone tried to frame him, then they would help McGrady. The clan leader had nothing to deal with them. If they wanted to put all the blame on him, he didn't care about their lives. All the guy was interested in was taking over their clans and gaining more dominance. Wa'eni was shocked by McGrady's words. The man with the cigar replied that he had warned him at the gaming table what would happen if he wanted to do business on his territory. The head of the clan said he received 30% of the total nails. The guy wanted to set his own rules. Wa'eni wondered if the purple-haired guy was so calm. It only proved his innocence. She thought that all suspicions would fall on him. But this person is not afraid of anything. He is not even afraid of the fact that he will have even more enemies. The people on the liner asked, McGrady thinks they'll forgive him. The purple-haired guy said, of course not, but they have to understand that they're not in a position to say that. Their words don't mean anything. McGrady pressed the button, and suddenly there was a deafening explosion on the ship, enveloping it in a cloud of smoke and fire. People were shocked. They did not understand what the guy had done. The guards ran up to them and told the chief that the engine room was completely destroyed. The ship would no longer be able to move. The beauty watched anxiously as the ship burned, and it was difficult for her to determine if it was really happening. Wa'eni turned and looked at McGrady. He was real, cold-blooded, ruthless. The red-haired girl had goosebumps from this man. She did not understand why she contacted this man. The guy noticed that the girl began to crawl somewhere and he grabbed her leg. The purple-haired guy told the girl to be careful, otherwise she might accidentally fall into the water. Wa'eni didn't understand how he could speak so hypocritically, with such an expression on his face. McGrady touched the girl's face and said they were only able to find out what happened because of her. The main character replied it was because he was using her as bait. The guy hugged the girl. He knew that she could solve everything on her own and that is why he allowed her to walk freely around the ship, but it seemed to the girl that the guy did it on purpose. He smiled, looked at Wa'eni's chest and saw the red spots. The guy wanted to know who had done it. The people on the ship heard all this. They were mad with rage. McGrady didn't respect them at all, and even fooled around with the girl. The new leader kills people from other clans, which irritated the chief very much. The man did not want to tolerate this and the others. The bearded man said that if McGrady dared to lay a finger on them, they would take his life and his girlfriend's. When the guy heard this, he realized, in this case, McGrady now can't let them go. Wa'eni was shocked. She didn't want the guy to drag her into his affairs and showdowns with the clan. From the laptop came the screams of people who asked what the name of the red-haired girl was. Someone answered Lucy. The guy said that all the women he brought with him were named Lucy, so no one would find her. She would never be in danger. The beauty thought that she was already in danger. The girl began to hurt where Horace Tanner had shot. McGrady took Wa'eni in his arms and told her to be smart and not stubborn, after which the guy asked the girl, Horace did it to her. The beauty replied yes. She was wondering what the clan leader was up to. The purple-haired guy said that Horace Tanner betrayed him, so when they returned, McGrady would deal with him and her friend. Wa'eni replied, didn't Rochester say it would be over after that? She thought it was the end. Rochester asked the red-haired girl who she thought belonged to the boat on which she had been placed. At this time, on the liner, a short-haired guy tried to make a call from the phone, but there was no signal anywhere. He thought it seemed that all the plans of that guy had failed. When he walked a little further down the hall, the boy saw McGrady's private army. They were already on the ship. The guy hid and took out throwing knives, after which he threw them at people. 2 people immediately fell to the floor. That guy was Kaichiro Chara. He noticed that McGrady was getting smarter. At this time, the purple-haired guy was carrying the girl in his arms. He wanted to get on the boat. The red-haired girl asked why the guy was carrying her in his arms if she could walk on her own. The clan leader replied that she was injured, so he had to help her. McGrady promised to reimburse everything. and Wenai replied that the guy didn't look like the one who blew up the ship a few minutes ago. Suddenly, Qizhan appeared in a wetsuit, holding a pistol in his hand and ready to fire. The clan leader saw this. He looked in the direction of the guy and told everyone to be careful. Qizhan fired, but the purple-haired guy covered the girl with his body, after which McGrady's private army began shooting at the detective. Wenai thought for a moment. It was a detective story. The girl ran up and told people to stop shooting, let them ignore him. The men with guns replied that it would be better for the girl to go and see what had happened to her master. The beautiful woman thought about it. She would take the chance and steal the boat from them and see if it was Qizhan, but McGrady grabbed her by the arm and said that he was fine, the girl had better not go far. For the guy it was just a slight scratch. Wenai shouted that it was very dangerous. The bullet almost went through his head. Rochester said that the bullet was aimed right at the girl from the beginning. McGrady looked at the girl. She didn't understand why the purple-haired guy was looking at her like that. The guy realized that Wenai hadn't noticed anything. The head of the clan told his people to be careful. This person is still at sea. If they find him, let them shoot. The beauty was very worried about Qizhan. The purple-haired guy smiled and said, "She doesn't seem to know what Qizhan is up to. The girl doesn't know anything about him." Qizhan was swimming underwater and didn't understand why McGrady was there. He wouldn't save Tyler if he was careless, and it scared him. The detective was injured. The red-haired girl was very worried about the detective. She could not stand still. Rochester was watching. McGrady said she would go first. The girl didn't agree. She wanted to find the equipment. The beauty needed to go down and have a look. The guy walked up to Wenai and hit her. She fell unconscious. He had to do it for her. A guard approached them with a gun and said that the position was occupied. They were ready to proceed with the operation, after which Rochester smiled. The guy decided to ask the people on the ship. They had already decided. They didn't have much time left to think. The Rochester family would take over. The bearded man was very angry, and Kaichiro Chara was fighting off McGrady's men. The main character woke up in the afternoon. She saw seagulls flying over her. The girl was still on the boat. She stood up and looked around, surrounded only by a vast ocean stretching to the horizon. Wenai touched her bruise. She was no longer in pain. She heard someone tell her that she was already awake. It was a purple-haired guy who took a fishing rod and fished on a boat to get some food. The red-haired girl didn't understand why he undressed, but she liked the guy's body. McGrady thought the girl had broken a rib, but it was only a bruise. The guy gave her a massage. Wenai said it was good. The guy confessed that he had torn her dress, but why did the girl look at him like that? The beauty did not understand why he said so, as if he did it every day. The main character noticed a bandage on McGrady's shoulder. She remembered how he protected her when the girl was shot. Wenai asked the clan leader what their current situation was. His plan failed. The guy replied, "Everything is fine, he got the power he wanted, but there is a small problem. The boat was not ready. And because of this, the guy lost contact with his people. Now they are trapped in the middle of an endless ocean." The girl was shocked by what she heard. She thought that now they were like in the movie, but Wenai did not know how to get out of here. McGrady deftly caught the fish and happily announced that they now had food to hold on. The girl put on new clothes and they fit her, after which Wenai smelled something very delicious. She went into Rochester's kitchen and saw fried fish and fish soup. The beauty was surprised that the head of the clan knew how to cook. The guy did not understand what was so special about it. The purple-haired guy explained that if he didn't know how to cook his own food, he could easily be poisoned. When they thought it made sense, she decided to try McGrady's cooked food. This food was delicious. The red-haired girl ate, but for some reason, the clan leader didn't even touch the food. She wondered why. The guy told her, "Just have a good meal." The protagonist said that he doesn't have to treat her so well. She saved him in the past, but she doesn't need a guy to pay a girl for it. Wenai likes it when McGrady just doesn't cause a problem. The head of the clan wanted to stop looking for her after finding another person, but he can't forget the day the girl saved him. Wenai has never been on the verge of death. She has no idea how hopeless she will feel. The girl not only saved his life, but also radically changed it, leaving an unforgettable trace in his fate. The beauty thought that what she had done meant a lot to him. Most likely he had gone through many unimaginable difficulties. McGrady looked at the girl happily. She didn't want the guy to look at her like that. After that, he took Wenai's hand. The red-haired girl didn't understand what he was doing. The purple-haired guy put the girl's hand on his chest. Wenai was a little embarrassed, but she liked the strong muscles, after which the girl came to her senses and asked why she had to touch his breasts. The guy said to look more closely. The beauty noticed a bullet wound on McGrady. Rochester said that Wa'Ni must understand how dangerous the situation was. If it wasn't for the girl, his body would have been left in the sea. Wa'Ni was a little upset. She couldn't even imagine that such a thing would happen, after which McGrady asked if it felt good to touch his chest. It wasn't long before they were caught in a violent thunderstorm. Large waves of water swayed the boat in different directions, and lightning constantly struck the ocean. There was water in the cabin. The clan leader said that it was cold at night. She had to try not to get wet so as not to catch a cold. But Wa'Ni screamed, after which she fell right into the water. The guy said that there was only one blanket on the boat. The girl wanted to take the blanket, but the purple-haired guy told her not to wet it. She needed to take off her clothes first. Wa'Ni didn't want to do that because McGrady would see her naked. McGrady said as if he hadn't seen her naked. The guy took off the beauty's clothes because she was wasting time on idle chatter. The girl was offended by the purple-haired guy. The head of the clan took a blanket and covered both of them. The girl did not understand why he did this. The guy replied that they had one blanket for two. The guy said they would have to hug each other to sleep. The girl screamed that she wouldn't. McGrady replied, "A man is only embarrassed when his heart flutters." The purple-haired guy asked the girl, she liked him. Wa'Ni replied in the negative, after which the guy told the girl not to resist that he did not see there. The beauty replied that the guy was a pervert. Rochester looked at Wa'Ni and said if she said it again, he would show her who the real pervert was. The girl decided to be quiet. There was a severe thunderstorm outside, and it was quiet in this place, as if time had stopped. The red-haired girl looked at McGrady and thought that he was very handsome. She was wondering how she became the head of the clan. What is his story? The guy smiled and asked Wa'Ni. She is not interested in him even now. The main character replied that he should not dream. The girl was very curious about what would happen to them next. She fell asleep and woke up in the afternoon, the sun shining brightly in her face, as if inviting her to a new day of adventure. In front of her, Wa'Ni saw McGrady holding a shirt in his hands. He said that her clothes were ruined, so let her wear his shirt. McGrady tossed the clothes to her and Wa'Ni grabbed hold of them, but the blanket slipped off and the guy saw the girl naked. The red-haired girl was very angry with the head of the clan because he deliberately threw her clothes so that she would let go of the blanket. Wa'Ni couldn't just leave it at that, so she decided to pounce on the guy to look at him naked too. McGrady didn't understand the girl. He was always generous in such a matter. Suddenly, the beauty lost her balance and collapsed on the deck, making the guy worry about her health. The head of the clan bent down to see what had happened to the girl. Wa'Ni felt strange. Her eyes darkened. Rochester took the girl and realized that the main character had a fever. She was very ill after yesterday's storm. The main character remembered Qijan, how he was worried about her. When the girl fell ill, he asked what she had done. The guy shouted for Wa'Ni to come to her senses faster. Qijan told her that persistence would ruin her, but the beauty replied, she has been doing this since the beginning. She has to find Kongtae. After which the detective told the girl not to overestimate herself and be a little softer towards herself. The detective leaned over to Wa'Ni and said that she was the girl he loved. The guy didn't want her to suffer. The red-haired girl didn't want to put pressure on herself. She desperately wanted to find Kongtae and start a new life. Wa'Ni wanted someone to treat her tenderly. After these dreams, the girl wakes up and asks for water. McGrady hears this and takes water in his mouth to give the girl a drink. Wa'Ni sees a purple-haired guy in front of him. He asked her. She is no longer asleep. The girl wants more water. The main character looked at the guy and did not know what to answer him. McGrady was embarrassed and told the girl to stop looking at him. She decided not to even raise her head. The guy hated such situations, so the girl would not get sick with him anymore. The red-haired girl wondered if she was too willful. He was courting her. Maybe she didn't understand everything so well and his eyes were red. It wasn't long before Wa'Ni approached McGrady. The night was very cold. She wondered if the guy wasn't cold without clothes. The girl came closer to the guy and wondered why he looked so sad. The beauty would never have thought that such a tyrant could sit with such an expression on his face. McGrady remembered his mother. He didn't want her to leave him. He was lost in his own thoughts. The girl crept up on the guy from behind. He turned around and saw her standing with a blanket in her hands. The purple-haired guy looked at the girl and asked Wa'Ni what was wrong. she decided to make the first move. The beauty was a little embarrassed and replied that if he got sick, it would be very bad for both of them. In addition, McGrady's cold body will help bring down the girl's temperature. The clan leader really liked the sensation on his back. It was very pleasant. Vo and I got angry and shouted that the guy was a pervert. The red-haired girl called the guy a jerk and said she would sit in the front. The purple-haired guy didn't mind. When the girl sat in the front, she realized that she had only made things worse. A whole night has passed. The girl has already recovered. Now McGrady has nothing to worry about. Wa and I thought a little. If the beauty did not see the bloodthirsty side of this guy, then she would say that he is a good person. In NI, I wondered how many days they had spent in the ocean. They had food, lots of fresh water, even fever pills. They heard a helicopter approaching them. The red-haired girl didn't understand who it was. Kaichiro got out of the helicopter. He greeted McGrady and told him not to worry about anything. The situation on the ship was not resolved. The guy was glad he got out of there alive. The short-haired guy said that everyone was caught in his web. At the moment, the main goal is to gain full control over the leading clans. Their influence has been halved. This gives them a huge advantage, and thanks to the fact that McGrady distracted everyone, no one noticed. All the conspiracies that the heads were building behind McGrady's back disappeared in an instant because of what he had done. The purple-haired guy said that it was all thanks to Kaichiro. The girl was shocked by such information. McGrady smiled and said that what he had done didn't seem to affect Kaichiro chair. The red-haired girl thought that at the party she might have left with Chijon, and in general, the girl was trying to figure out how the guy had found them. The girl guessed that McGrady had some kind of plan. When I asked what she needed to do, the guy smiled and replied that there was nothing to do. The protagonist needed to stay calm and stand behind McGrady. Kaichiro Chara looked at it and told them not to worry. He's not going to be reckless because a lot of people under the water are aiming for his head. Vo and I wondered what kind of people Kaichiro was talking about, and she looked at McGrady and he smiled. The beauty understood. The purple-haired guy had been lying to her all this time. He couldn't get home because he was being hunted, but McGrady denied it. He just had to wait for everything to calm down. And they had a good time. The girl was very angry at the guy. She replied that the clan leader was acting like a child. Kaichiro coughed and apologized for interrupting their conversation, but the chiefs of the two clans ordered him to kill McGrady and Vo and I. The girl asked what she had to do with the situation that happened on the ship, why they wanted to kill her too. She wondered if the beauty left McGrady, she would not be killed. The guy in the helicopter threw something and said, "This thing belongs to Lucy." McGrady caught the object, and the girl realized what was there. In the knitted piece of cloth was a necklace that Kong Tae had given her. She thought she would never find it. The short-haired guy explained that the necklace was lying near Joseph's corpse, which is why everyone thinks they did it, but McGrady still didn't trust the guy. Kaichiro said that he just needed the red-haired girl to appreciate his act. The clan leader took the necklace and tried to throw it away, shouting for it to leave. Suddenly, Rochester's guards came out of the water. The girl was a little frightened, and she realized that there were a lot of people underneath them. People in diving suits reported that everything was fine. McGrady looked into the distance and sighed. It looked like their vacation was about to end. Ni was upset. They wouldn't have to meet every day anymore. It was fun with the guy, and so she didn't want to break up. The head of the clan wanted to introduce the girl to the new head of security. The beauty turned around and replied that McGrady did not need to introduce him. The young man looked at Ni and didn't understand why the girl was so upset, but he soon realized what had happened and smiled. The purple-haired guy promised himself that no matter what happened, he wouldn't let Ni go. After a while, they came home and were met by Kong Tae, who was very glad that nothing had happened to Ni. The main character began to tell Kong Tae how everything went and what happened to them, and McGrady left them and went to his room. The red-eyed guy asked the maids about Kong Tae. They said that the girl behaved as usual. From time to time, she went to the garden or to the shooting range. The blonde girl did not talk to anyone at all. The head of the clan gave the order to keep an eye on her. It seemed to him that Kong Tae had something to do with Horace's betrayal. She was the only one who was close to him. Horace had been with him for years. He knew McGrady better than anyone else. The guy didn't understand why he had betrayed him. The purple-haired guy assumed that Kong Tae somehow communicated with people from the outside. Kong Tae asked the red-haired girl why Horace didn't come back with them. Ni replied that he had betrayed McGrady. The blonde girl is a little upset, but these things don't concern them anymore. finally they will be able to leave this place. The beauty said that the head of the clan had promised her, he had to keep his word. After that the maids came to them, they needed Lucy, the master wanted to see her. But the girls did not understand what kind of Lucy they wanted. The maids looked at each other and pointed their fingers at the red-haired girl. Wa'enai remembered the necklace and gave it to Kong Tae. Her friend thought it was a good thing that Wa'enai had returned safe and sound. The red-haired girl opened the door and walked into McGrady's office, where he was standing talking to someone on the phone. The head of the clan pointed his finger at her to be quiet. The beauty wondered why he was calling her if he was busy, after which the girl noticed something. There was a folder on the table with photos in it. She noticed that there was a person in the photo. The girl thought it was Chi-Jean. Wa'enai wanted to know if the guy was okay. The girl deliberately hits the folders and tells McGrady that her hands slipped off the table and the photos were scattered all over the room. McGrady looked at the girl and thought that Wa'enai could have thought of something better. The protagonist begins to collect photos and notices Chi-Jean in the photo. He has been wounded. A purple-haired guy approached her and took away the photo, then told her not to worry. The detective was fine. This cunning guy disappeared right after his men found him on the coast. The beauty expected this from Chi-Jean. McGrady told the girl that if next time she wanted to know something, let her ask the guy directly. The red-haired girl replied that she would leave this place with Kong Tae. There would be no next time. But Wa'enai felt the clan leader approach her. He took her by the waist and pressed herself against her. She didn't know what he was doing. McGrady had to keep his word. McGrady explained that he didn't have any goals. If the girl wanted to leave, let her go. He just wanted to say goodbye to her properly. Wa'enai wanted to know what the guy wanted to do. The head of the clan was insistent in his demand. He stated that he would only accept a farewell kiss and nothing else. Wa'enai nudged the guy and told him to stop acting like a fool. McGrady asked when he acted like a fool. The girl's face always says that she doesn't like it. Her constant refusals hurt his pride. The main character hoped that the guy did not ask her to make the first move. The red-haired girl looked at the guy and it was written on his face that he was waiting for her kiss. Wa'enai was shocked. The guy leaned over and closed his eyes. He was waiting for the girl to kiss him. McGrady asked Wa'enai if she wanted to leave. The beauty thought, isn't it breaking the rules? In nightclubs she will have to pay a huge amount of money to kiss such a handsome man. If kissing him solves the problem, then she has nothing to lose. The girl touched McGrady's face and said that the guy asked for it. She would not restrain herself. After that, she kissed the purple-haired guy, but then quickly pushed him away, leaving him standing there in disbelief. Wa'enai straightened her hair and thanked McGrady for the accommodation, but the clan leader took the girl by the head and kissed her. The main character stepped on the guy's foot to stop kissing her. She walked away from McGrady and asked if he wanted the girl to suffocate. McGrady replied that the kiss didn't bring any pleasure. Wa'enai protested that her lips were swollen, and after that, the guy dared to say that. The red-haired girl heard that someone had come in. When Wa'enai turned around, she saw Kong Tae in front of her. The girl was shocked by what she saw. Kong Tae decided to run away, the main character yelling for her friend to wait for her, and McGrady stood and smiled. The beauty ran after her friend. She grabbed her hand and ordered her to stop. The girl didn't understand what Kong Tae was doing. Wa'enai explained to her friend, it was just a goodbye kiss, but the blonde girl asked if she needed to kiss to say goodbye. The protagonist replied, they're leaving anyway, it doesn't matter, so why not kiss? The protagonist's friend insisted that she would not go anywhere, expressing her determination to stay in this house. Wa'enai was shocked by such words from Kong Tae. She couldn't understand why her friend didn't want to leave. The red-haired girl asked her friend what she was saying. She didn't want to leave. Why? Kong Tae explained, she wasn't going to leave from the beginning. The blonde girl is very happy that Wa'enai has been looking for her all this time. But she can't go back to her old life, after which Kong Tae turns around and starts to leave. The beauty asked the blonde girl if there was anything holding her or if she liked McGrady. The friend looked at Wa'enai and replied that she was right. Kong Tae advised to go back and not look for her anymore. The red-haired girl had already seen that she was alive and living very well. Wa'enai smiled and hoped that her friend would be okay. Kong Tae replied that the protagonist should return to her former peaceful life. After that, a beautiful woman came to McGrady and asked him why he wanted to see her. The purple-haired guy asked if they were going to leave. The head of the clan explained that he would send people to take them to the city and the two girls would join the tour group and return to their country. after which McGrady would find a way to draw attention to himself so that the girls would not be sought. The red-haired girl was silent. The clan leader came over and asked what was wrong. She couldn't leave him. The protagonist replied that she was leaving alone. McGrady assumed that Kong Tae would not leave. He thought about it. Horace's infidelity had already been proven. It was clear to him that there was a person in his house who was pulling the strings. The girl was surprised that the purple-haired guy knew about Kong Tae's desire to stay. Then Wa-ni said that if the guy knew that she loved him, then he should treat her well. The purple-haired guy didn't come alive to hear this. He asked what his girlfriend said to her. When the main character told everything, McGrady laughed. McGrady wondered if this was really an argument that was easy to believe, so she had seen them kiss and immediately reported that there was no place for Wa-ni to make her leave. The guy asked what about Wa-ni. The girl wasn't going to leave either, but the main character turned around and replied that she was leaving. Vo thought for a moment. The girl spoke as if she were the third odd man standing in the way of their feelings. The clan leader said that he would also be honest with her. He has no feelings for Kong Tae. His eyes are always only looking for a red-haired girl. Kong Tae's appearance here is just a coincidence. The purple-haired guy asked Wa-ni if she was sure she wanted to leave her girlfriend to him. The main character turned around and looked at McGrady. She blushed and the red-eyed guy saw it. The girl denied that she blushed and told him to send her home immediately. McGrady didn't understand why she would go home if Kong Tae was staying. The guy offered to have dinner together, but this made Wa-ni even angrier. She didn't want to sit at the same table with him. Rochester said that he would cook the food himself and there would be fish for dinner. The beauty refused such an offer. The red-haired girl opened the door and left. The girl didn't understand what had happened, why she blushed when McGrady said that the person he had always wanted to find was her. Wa-ni began to feel strange. The women in swimsuits watched Wa-ni with interest, wondering how they could get closer to her. Wa-ni saw the necklace in front of her. She did not immediately understand who the gift was from. The maids bowed and said that it was a gift from the owner. The beauty replied that she would be leaving soon. She did not need it. The maids explained that these things had nothing to do with them at all. They just brought them. The red-haired girl knew that McGrady had spent a lot of money on her, and that the other women and Kong Tae would think after that. At this time, strangers in swimsuits were chatting about how expensive the head of the clan had bought gifts for Wa-ni. The woman had never seen McGrady give anything to the girl after moving. The owner treats the red-haired girl very well. The guy even cooks for her, the girl on purpose. This was said aloud next to Kong Tae, hoping to hurt her. Women in swimsuits approached the blonde girl and told her that now that McGrady had a new mistress, he didn't care about the old one and she couldn't be so arrogant. Kong Tae looked at the strangers and replied that at least she was his mistress. It's much better than people who do everything to get his attention, but every time he doesn't even look in their direction. Unknown women pushed Kong Tae and she fell into the pool. One of the women told the girl to stop thinking of herself as the mistress of this house. They wanted to see if McGrady would come to save his old mistress, or if he didn't care. A very angry red-haired girl ran up to them and hit the strangers, after which they also fell by the pool. Wa-ni decided to come to the aid of her friend. She asked Kong Tae if she was okay. The blonde girl hugged Wa-ni and replied that she knew the main character wanted to leave, but McGrady asked her to stay. Now everyone's attitude towards Kong Tae will change dramatically. It was not good for the main character. She wants to find a way to leave this place. After that, a little time passed, and the girl looked out the window. She thought, this place is not heavily guarded. When the girl flew by helicopter, she considered the location where there was a house and a large forest. This is the main obstacle. Suddenly, her thoughts are interrupted by two strangers who ask the red-haired girl if she wants to leave. The protagonist replied that she did not trust the two of them. The strangers said they were the people who most wanted her to leave this place. Her presence took away from them all the opportunities they could have. They told Wa-ni that the place was remote enough that she would need a helicopter to leave the house, but at least she would be able to get out of here. Wa-ni stood in the kitchen and recalled a conversation with women in swimsuits who reported that they received supplies through transport. These supplies came once every 2 weeks. She could sneak into the supply vehicle. But they didn't know when the next time the supplies would arrive. Wa-ni had a good idea. The cook came up to her and told Lucy that she didn't need to cook, he could do everything himself. The beauty replied to the cook, she was bored here, she had to find something to do. McGrady came to them and asked what the girl was doing. Wa-ni turned around and replied that she was cooking for him. The guy looked at her food and was shocked by what he saw. He asked the red-haired girl, this is what she calls food. The red-haired girl was glowing with joy. She said that maybe it didn't look very tasty, but she thought it was edible. The guy thought that Wa'anai would always get out of it, and he was trying to be polite. McGrady took the beautiful woman by the hand and said, he wanted to show the girl something, she should follow him. Wa'anai resisted and did not want to go with the guy. All the ingredients they had in the vault were gone. The red-haired girl spoiled them on purpose. If they hurry, then the supplies will be tonight. The purple-haired guy said that they had already arrived. Wa'anai didn't expect that the clan leader really wanted to show her something. Rochester asked if the girl liked their room. The main character was surprised by the guy's words. Wa'anai said that she was used to sleeping only with Kong Tae. McGrady replied, the two girls sleep together, it's not right. The main character replied that the purple-haired guy was a fool. He wanted to say that sleeping with him was right. Rochester asked if there was any problem and grabbed the girl's hand. After that, the girl found herself in bed with McGrady. She didn't understand how things could turn out like this. How could she leave now that the supplies had already arrived? The red-haired girl looked at the guy. She needed to check if he was asleep or pretending. Just as she wanted to get up, McGrady put his arm around her waist. Wa'anai thought the guy was already awake. People in the house began to shout that a fire had started. The girl turned on the light and was surprised. The maids ran into their room and told McGrady that the fire had started in the kitchen. Several people had already been injured. The guy decided to go and see it himself. The purple-haired guy stood up and told the maids to watch Wa'anai. The girl thought for a moment. Someone decided to give her a chance to escape. She should take it. Wa'anai looked at the maids and knew that the two of them would be very difficult to deal with, but she had already come up with a plan. The girl took the blanket and threw it straight to the maids. The red-haired girl had to try to escape. They looked at the blanket as soon as it fell to the floor. The maids were very surprised. The main character disappeared somewhere. The women saw that the balcony was open and they assumed that the girl jumped out of the balcony. The red-haired girl is hiding. The supply trucks are due to arrive soon, but the kitchen is now engulfed in flames. A guy approached the girl from behind. She felt the presence of a man and turned around to see who it was. The man put his hand over her mouth and she looked at him and it was Horace. She didn't know what he was doing here. The white-haired guy told Wa'anai to follow him if she wanted to leave this place, and if she understood, she should nod her head. Wa'anai nodded her head and the guy let her go. The beauty wondered if he hadn't betrayed McGrady. Why would he come here? How Horace knew she wanted to escape. Meanwhile, two women were sitting in the kitchen in swimsuits. McGrady asked them why they were there. The women told them that they wanted to cook food for him. The head of the clan asked if they were the ones who set fire to the kitchen. The strangers replied that they did not know who did it. The kitchen suddenly caught fire. The purple-haired guy said they were lying. He turned around and told the guards to send them into the forest. The women were very scared and decided to tell everything. The women in swimsuits began to say that Wa'anai was so eager to get out of here that she persuaded them to tell her about the car with provisions. McGrady asked how they found out about the car with provisions. The stranger replied that before the guy left for the birthday party, they passed by the hallway and heard Kong Tae and Horace talking about it. The guy asked the cook when the truck with provisions would arrive this month. The cook replied that Wa'anai had used up all the food and because of this, the car should arrive today. They were told that a supply vehicle had recently arrived and they had to go check on supplies, so McGrady turned around and ran. Meanwhile, Horace was walking down the hallway of the house with the red-haired girl. Wa'anai wondered. This guy had recently shot her on the boat. But now she was following him as if nothing had happened. The girl did not understand why she was so careless. Suddenly, Horace threw her his jacket for the beauty to put on. The girl thought that the guy looked like a gentleman. The red-haired girl turned around and didn't know where they were going. The supply vehicle had to be outside. Horace said that they had arrived. This tunnel stretches from the villa to the very middle of the forest. The vehicle enters the tunnel in the forest and stops in the tunnel, where the goods are unloaded. Wa'anai saw a bunch of guards near the entrance. She was surprised that the guy had killed them all. The white-haired guy said that he had been waiting for the supply car to arrive, and that had helped him with it. They went down into the tunnel. The beauty asked Horace. He was only there to help her escape. The guy replied that he had his own business here. He would only take the girl to the car. As soon as they came to the car, Horace told the girl to drive by herself. There is only one road in the tunnel. Once Wa'anai leaves the tunnel, she should just follow the tire tracks. In the car the girl will find the phone and the money. The main character thought about it. it was all made up by her friend Kong Tae, and Horace helped her only because her friend wanted it so. The red-haired girl's intuition told her that there was something between Horace and Kong Tae. She hoped they could get out of here. The white-haired guy replied to do her own thing. The beauty got into the car and mentally said goodbye to McGrady. If they ever meet again, she hopes that the guy will change. The girl started the engine and drove away. Horace was walking through the tunnel and heard the sounds of walking in front of him. It was McGrady with the guards. He heard the sound of the engine, and ran with the guards to the parking lot. Horace hid behind the cars and watched as they ran into the parking lot. McGrady wanted to stop the girl from escaping, but all he saw was the car, which had already gone far away. The guy smiled and wondered where his little tiger cub was going. McGrady opened his brother-in-law and got into his car. The guards didn't understand what the guy was doing. They thought the clan leader was crazy. Vo and I was driving a car and saw in the rear-view mirror that a car was following her. She did not know who it was. As the car pulled closer, the girl saw that it was McGrady. She began to worry when the guy smiled. Under the roar of the car's engine, piercing the night air, the guy caught up with the girl and crashed into her car. The red-haired girl screamed. She didn't understand what McGrady was doing or why he was doing it. The head of the clan turned the steering wheel to the left and caught up with the main character's car. The girl noticed this and waited for him to do this time. McGrady looked at Wei. She was scared. This guy was trying to crash into her car again at full speed. The purple-haired guy rammed Winnie's car again and told her to be a good girl and stop. The beauty replied that he was just gallantry in his requests. The guy scared her to death. McGrady smiled and said that the girl was very naughty. He pressed the girl's car to the side of the road. Wei couldn't control and crashed her car into a tree. The clan leader came out and thought he was a little overexcited, but it's still better than if she ran off into the forest. The guy told Wei to go out because there are a lot of traps in the forest and people who don't know about them are likely to fall into them. The clan leader opened the car door and was very surprised. The girl was not there. He was very worried that Wei had escaped into the forest. At this time, the red-haired girl was running through the woods. She thought McGrady was crazy. She hated the guy for what he had done. She ran on and thought that with this psychopath she could lose her life, and then she hooked her foot on the taut thread. McGrady heard a girl screaming in the woods, which made him worry even more about Voni's life. The red-haired girl screamed in pain and thought, no wonder Kong Tae told her not to go to the forest under any circumstances. The pain was so great that the girl could not get up. The beauty had already lost a lot of blood and she did not stop. Winnie wanted to cry and scream for McGrady to find her because she didn't want to die of blood loss. The girl lay down and thought. She had to think of something to sew up the wounds with. She felt strange. In the moment between life and death against all odds, she was thinking about him. The purple-haired guy found the girl lying in the forest. Wei was surprised that the clan leader had found her so quickly. She looked at McGrady, after which the guy demanded that she immediately swear to him that she would never leave him, and he would think about whether to help her or not. The main character asked the guy, "This is a joke, she will still leave, even if he saves her. The girl cannot keep her word given under such circumstances." The head of the clan replied, "Then he will not help her. It is the beauty herself that she decided to run away from him." Wei said, once she saved the guy, he does not think that it is time to repay the debt and they will be settled. McGrady asked, the girl thinks this is an equal exchange. She believes that the guy will repay saving his life in kind. His rage was off the scale from the escape of Wei, and the guy will so easily forgive her without teaching her a lesson. Wei said, then McGrady just let him stand and watch her die. The clan leader asked, the girl thinks he can't. The girl's intuition told her that the guy would not do this, but now the beauty was dizzy. She looked back and realized that she had not had any happy moments in her life at all. The parents of the main character died early. She was left on the street and only thanks to her elder brother, who helped her financially, the girl was able to get an education. Fortunately, Kong Tae appeared in the girl's life, who became not just a friend for Wei, but a true support in the most difficult moments of her life. Chi Zhan would never have failed the mission if it wasn't for her. The girl began to realize that she would die after all. She looked at McGrady and thought it looked like this guy was just going to stand there and watch. For a girl, it was too much. The day came, and the girl was lying in bed, after which she woke up and thought that in the end, the guy brought her back. The red-haired girl felt pain in her leg and wondered if the guy had saved her, but did he really think that now? she would agree to his terms. Vo and I heard the screams of the women who begged the master to spare them. The girl did not understand what had happened and decided to look out the window. She saw McGrady scolding two female strangers, the guy telling them that they had provoked the escape. He ordered the guards to throw them out into the woods. The women begged the guy not to do it. The guard explained to the clan leader that the two had been sent to them by the clan from the Solomon Islands as payment for the debt. McGrady said the two women ran to see the animals in the woods and unfortunately never returned. He didn't think anyone would blame him for the disappearance of those sent to pay the debt. The main character looked at it and thought how this man could be so ruthless towards others. The girl needed to stand up. At this time, Rochester noticed Kong Tae. The guy approached her and said that it looked like her Horus had returned, if she was happy. Kong Tae stood and thought about what to say to this guy. After a moment of silence in their dialogue, Kong Tae said if he had returned or not, how would she know? The head of the clan said that this is already. He is starting to get very angry. His patience also has a limit. He offered her to leave amicably. McGrady will pay her for the problems caused. Just let him name the amount. When I watched this from the house of the house, she was curious about what was going on there. The atmosphere around them was very tense. The red-haired girl decided to intervene in their conversation. She asked Kong Tae what was going on there. The purple-haired guy looked at Wen. The girl was a little frightened by his fierce gaze. She didn't understand why he was looking at her like that, and Kong Tae smiled and fell. Wen was very scared for her friend and shouted her name. She wanted to know what had happened to her. The beauty told McGrady that he could not leave her lying there. She needed urgent help, but the guy ignored the girl's words. The main character decided to go to her friend herself. She wondered why the guy treats Kong Tae like this and decided to kick her out. If she is innocent, can no one in this house stand up for the girl? She opened the door and the maids were standing in front of her. They told her that the gentleman had said that Wen was not allowed to leave the room. The red-haired girl shouted that they should not dare to block her way, because they would be sorry for something. The girl saw the beaten maids. She realized that McGrady was really sick in the head. Since they missed the main character, they were punished. The maids grabbed Wen and dragged her back into the room, the girl screaming that she couldn't leave Kong Tae lying on the ground. As she watched her friend, who stayed there until the evening, there was nothing she could do about it. The friend stood up and Wen asked if she was okay, after which the red-haired girl said, Kong Tae should return to the room quickly, otherwise the girl will catch a cold. Kong Tae looked into Wen's eyes, and in the blonde girl's gaze, there was indescribable pain and regret for her actions. The main character did not understand what was happening to her friend. Kong Tae said the name of the red-haired girl. After the friend said that the girl should take care of herself, Wen couldn't understand what she meant. The blonde girl got up, turned around and walked away. The beauty looked at it with surprise. The red-haired girl stretched out her hand and shouted her friend's name. The girl felt as if Kong Tae was saying goodbye to her forever. And her premonition did not deceive her. The next day, Wen found out that Kong Tae had gone into the forest of her own free will. The beauty broke the plate of food, chased everyone away and did not want to eat. Since she was forcibly returned to the villa, the girl had not seen McGrady yet. She needed to get him to send people to look for Kong Tae. The protagonist told the maids that she wanted to see Rochester, and the women replied that the gentleman had expected these words. Wen was put into a carriage, and the maids decided to take her to McGrady's, and on the way she heard a strange, unfamiliar voice. That guy was Eric, McGrady's secretary, and he decided to leave because he had business to attend to. When Eric saw the red-haired girl, he was very happy. The guy asked Rochester, this girl, the beloved of his heart. The head of the clan replied that the guy should ask her himself. He walked up to the girl and asked Wen, was she really McGrady's girl? The red-haired girl looked away and said, since when did she become McGrady's girl? The purple-haired guy asked, then why did she roll here? If the girl has no important things to do, she can leave. The main character said that she has one thing for him. Wen asked the guy if he could be so kind as to send people to find Kong Tae because the forest was too dangerous. McGrady got angry, after which he replied, the girl decided to leave of her own free will, and he should drop everything and go look for her. The beauty said that Kong Tae loved him very much. You can't do this to her. The guy looked at Wen and then replied that the girl should not talk nonsense. He would not chase after the girl who left here of her own free will. The girl hugged McGrady and asked him to help. She promised that she would never run away again. She would always be by McGrady's side from now on. the guy was surprised by the red-haired girl's words. The purple-haired guy touched Winnie's face, then hugged her and asked why she hadn't asked for it earlier. Eric smiled and watched them. He noticed that McGrady was blushing. The guy wondered if this was the girl of his heart that he had never gotten, but he thought this girl was too frank. When the main character hugged McGrady, she thought that the guy needed to hurry, otherwise the irreparable could happen. Rochester thought that tonight, finally, his desires would be satisfied. Eric had the feeling that the two were plotting against each other, and that made him a little upset. Next, the action takes place in the forest, where Kong Tae is standing, and the silhouette of some guy appears near her. The white-haired guy asks how long the girl has been waiting. Kong Tae replied, "Not really. Horace said he came here to pick her up." There were a lot of guards with dogs in the woods. They inspected every inch of the forest. McGrady commanded the operation. He received a call and was told that the girl had disappeared and some traps had been defused. McGrady turned off his phone and wondered if Horace had only been there to take Kong Tae away, so Winnie's help was just a red herring. But what is the benefit to them? They have lost any opportunity to be aware of what is happening here. The purple-haired guy came to Winnie, but the girl said that if the guy still hadn't found Kong Tae, then even if he didn't dream of touching her, McGrady was very by her words. The head of the clan grabbed the beautiful woman and said that he was the true master here. Why should he wait for something to satisfy his desire? Winnie called the guy a wild animal and a deceiver. The guy was hurt by these words and was very angry. McGrady explained to the girl that maybe she didn't hear everything clearly. He didn't like her best friend, and the time she fell, the girl pretended and lied about loving him. The girl said that if she didn't see Kong Tae, she wouldn't fall for his dishonest tricks. Rochester was already tired of listening to her idle chatter, so he grabbed Winnie by the leg and the beauty was in great pain. The main character said that he was not even embarrassed by the fact that the girl's leg was broken. The guy was worse than an animal. The purple-haired guy decided to remain silent. Eric was standing by their door, listening to what was going on. McGrady was yelling for Winnie to recover faster, and the girl was screaming that she couldn't control it. Eric was amused. It was the first time he had seen McGrady love someone so much. Winnie was indeed a rather curious girl, but then the guy remembered that he liked eavesdropping so much that one day it would ruin him. The red-haired girl sat down to eat, but McGrady was not at the table. She asked the maids where he was and she was told that he had gone to the corporation. The beauty thought about it. In addition to the casino, he still has an honest income. The maid said that the master is the heir of the family, so he should be engaged in the family business, which means that his family has an honest source of income. Winnie, lost in thought, suddenly realized that he, a real estate tycoon, was relieved by this unexpected detail. The girl thought that the guy did not like social life and socially isolated from the whole world, preferring solitude. The women bowed and said that the master had given orders that from now on, Winnie was the mistress of this villa. If she needed anything, she should not hesitate to ask them. The beauty said that in that case, everyone should quickly go to the forest to look for Kong Tae. The maids refused to do so. They explained that the master had already resolved this matter, and there was no need to look for the girl anymore. Winnie did not understand how he had already solved everything. She wanted to know what had happened to Kong Tae. The maid said that McGrady had assumed that the red-haired girl would ask this question. The guy told them to relay these words. Winnie is stupid. Guess what? When the beautiful woman heard these words, she was a little angry with Rochester. The red-haired girl stood up and burned with rage. The girl said, "If you think about it, neither she or Kong Tae have ever escaped, and her friend is not even knowing where right now. The girl hopes that eventually the guy will give an answer to her question, otherwise she will just leave." The maids replied that she cannot leave. Winnie said that if she was not allowed to leave, then let them at least give her a phone or a laptop, otherwise she would die of boredom. The women replied that this should not be done. The master said that the girl was not allowed to contact the outside world yet. The beautiful woman asked, then, which of her mistress all the time, but for some reason the master deprives them of affection. This is a waste. The girl wanted to love her passionately. The unknown woman began to thank the mistress. At this time they were approached by a very angry McGrady, who took the women and left them. The red-haired girl closed her eyes and kissed Rochester, after which Winnie opened her eyes and asked how the guy got here. McGrady asked what she had done here. The beauty replied that she was having fun and let the guy not interfere with her. The girl began to chase him away. the purple-haired guy looked at Wani and said that now he will show her pleasure and fun. McGrady took the girl in his arms and she felt dizzy, after which she began to vomit. She asked what the guy was up to. The purple-haired guy replied that he didn't care about Wani's opinion and that it would be better for her not to vomit in his house. The guy dragged the girl to his room and carefully laid her on the bed, where she instantly fell into a deep sleep. Rochester wondered how much a girl had to drink to be so drunk. McGrady turned around and said, he didn't allow this behavior when he wasn't home, but when the guy saw the women, he was very surprised. The head of the clan asked the women, did they even think about what they were wearing? The worker answered, they were told so by the mistress. They could not know what the girl was up to. She told them to put on something more revealing. After that, the mistress began to touch and kiss them. The purple-haired guy thought that there really was something wrong with this girl. The guy was curious. She was very close to Kong Tae. The girl had done the same to her. He was disgusted to even think about such a thing when he imagined that such an obscene thing was going on at home. McGrady wanted to teach the girl a lesson, but as soon as he leaned over to her, he smelled bad breath and jumped back and covered his nose. Then the action takes place on the street, in the city, where the main character asks McGrady why he brought her to the company. The purple-haired guy replied, does the girl really think that he will turn a blind eye to her ugly behavior in the house? Wani explained, it's all because the women in his house are very beautiful. McGrady asked, she wasn't jealous at all. The beauty replied that whoever was able to please everyone won the game. Eric was watching. He had a feeling that they were made for each other. The clan leader was already at the entrance of the building. He ordered Eric to keep an eye on Wani because he had to go to a meeting. Eric approached Wani and said that now he would accompany the girl. The red-haired girl looked at the guy. She thought he was very friendly. She wanted to use her charms on him. Wani asked if she could bother the guy a little with one request. Eric looked at the girl and asked, her be stung on the lips. The beauty thought he was strange. The blonde guy said that when the girl tried to escape, she broke her leg. She doesn't think that if Wani runs away a second time, she will break her neck. The red-haired girl looked at Eric and realized that this guy would not be easy to get along with. The girl only had a wound, the bone was intact, her leg was already fine, but she had to continue to pretend that she could not walk. Next, the action takes place in the Rochester company. An employee approached the guy and explained that the computers were hacked and information about casino customers was stolen. McGrady wanted to know when this happened. The person said that late in the evening, the system administrator noticed the traces of the intrusion and managed to prevent the data leakage, but despite this, some of the data was stolen and is now put up as a lot, at an underground auction. McGrady wondered if his clients were not government officials or business tycoons, but disclosure would have a negative impact on his family's reputation, so it was necessary to start a rumor that the information was false. The purple-haired guy told them to buy back this information at all costs and also find out who the seller of this information is. The head of the clan noticed on the screen of his laptop how Eric escorted the girl to the room. He wanted her to rest. The guy opened the door and led the girl into the room, after which he said that if he needed anything, he should ring the bell that hung on the wall. The red-haired girl was surprised that they were in the company's office, and McGrady had made a bedroom here, although it was high time for the girl to get used to it. Looking around, Wani noticed a laptop on the table. She was very happy about it. The girl thought that McGrady was very into the messages sent from the laptop in his private room. One of the guards told McGrady that the red-haired girl was very adept at cracking the password, although the level of security of this password was low, but everything indicated that she was well trained to do so. McGrady wondered if Wani would send a message to Chijan. The guy was constantly trying to get him. Rochester suggested that it was most likely a hacker attack that was the work of a detective. The clan leader smiled. He wanted to throw him some misinformation. The guy asked what the girl was doing. The guards reported that Wani started playing the online game and then spent all 3 hours playing it. After a while, it was already night outside. A purple-haired guy came into Wani's room to check on how she was feeling. When McGrady walked in, he saw an open laptop and a game was running on it. He read the killer animal. It was the nickname of the girl in the game. He couldn't believe that Wani was playing games for fun. He also decided to play. Rochester sat down at the table and started the game. He didn't understand anything. Some people were always swearing at him, and he was aimlessly pressing all the buttons. The guy had already begun to be infuriated by insults, and he decided to answer them that at least they understood who they were talking to. at which time the girl woke up and noticed that the guy was playing. The red-haired girl came over and shouted that it was so difficult to go from bronze rank to gold rank. How could he ruin everything so quickly? McGrady asked what was wrong. It wasn't a big loss and it was just a game, don't shout like that. After that, they decided to go out to eat together. The girl was still angry at McGrady, and the guy advised WNI to play less online. It turns out that there are so many treacherous people there. They did nothing but argue with him. When McGrady remembered this, he was very and called the IT department. The guy wanted them to find out what kind of annoying people were on the team with him and deal with each one the way they knew how. The purple-haired guy said that he was joking. If the girl stopped being angry, then he wouldn't be there anymore. WNI thought, the guy is a real scoundrel. In fact, the girl just needed to go in once to convey a message that the back door was open. But the guy hesitated and decided to check on the beauty. The girl thought for a moment. She wished the guy good luck. It would not be so easy for him to find out the truth. Rochester told WNI not to bother about it so much. Let the girl already eat the food, otherwise she will cool down. The security guards called the head of the clan. They warned the guy that a hacker attack had begun on the video surveillance system. It was the same as last time. Most likely it was the same person. McGrady quickly grabbed a tablecloth and covered the girl so that the cameras wouldn't see her. She didn't understand what the guy was doing. But the hacker had already seen Winnie's face. It was too late. All the cameras in the office had been hacked. He had found the girl. He couldn't even imagine that WNI would be next to the head of the clan. When the guy told the hacker that McGrady had stolen WNI, he didn't believe it. After which the guy turned around and asked what he was going to do. Chi-Jean was lying on the bed and rewinding his wound before looking at the hacker. He didn't know what to say. The hooded guy blushed and told Chi-Jean to watch the purple-haired guy holding the detective's girlfriend in his arms. Did he really off McGrady so much that Rochester decided to take the girl away from him? The detective walked over and punched the hacker on the head, then asked how old he was to say such a thing. Now that they were sure that the agent was okay, they should not meddle in Rochester's property anymore, or they might be exposed. Chi-Jean pondered. He would never have thought that Rochester would keep WNI by his side. He wanted to know what McGrady was up to. He was interested in their relationship, but Chi-Jean needed to forget about it for a while. After the incident with Joseph, Rochester and the red-haired girl were blacklisted by the mafia, and they were hunted. Rochester made the Ku and Kan family so angry that they decided not to let him go with it. Despite the fact that the influence of these two families has greatly decreased, they still have many killers working for them. Therefore, it is dangerous for WNI to be around him right now. Since Kang Tae is already safe, then WNI does not need to worry about her anymore. This time, the detective must definitely get the girl out of there. Next, the action takes place in McGrady's bedroom. The red-haired girl did not understand what happened. She did nothing. WNI thought that the hacking of the surveillance system was definitely organized by a hacker friend of hers. The purple-haired guy said, so the girl decided to reveal her location. WNI likes to be watched. Winnie replied that he did not understand what he was talking about, after which McGrady tore the outer clothes of the main character. McGrady said that since the beauty wanted to be watched so much, then he did not mind. The main character notices a video camera on the wall, after which she starts shouting for the guy to let her go. She did not expect that strangers could see this. McGrady grabbed the red-haired girl's hand and said that she didn't think it was time for their real relationship to become a reality. She looked at the guy and felt scared. The head of the clan began to kiss her, and the girl resisted as much as she could. She grabbed McGrady by the hair and said that she did not want to do it. A hacker was watching all this. His nose was bleeding from what he saw. The hooded guy couldn't sit still. It was very exciting for him. He called Chi-Jean to look at it. But the detective had already left. The hacker looked around and said that he was missing the most interesting things. The guy decided to record a video for the sake of Chi-Jean. The hacker told them to be slower. He hadn't adjusted the camera angle yet. He was. After these words, he saw how they tried to hack him. The guy realized this and decided to act. He needed to prevent his computer from being hacked. After that, he saw his face on the screen, and the guy realized that he had been exposed. He needed to run fast. It was discovered by Eric, who wondered if a hacker with such talent could look like an immature bully. People informed Eric that the location of the target the hacker was hunting had been discovered and he was very sorry. The guy warned the specialists that if McGrady found out that someone had seen him and WNI in bed, he would scratch their eyes out. Eric thought for a while, and realized that McGrady was a scoundrel. He wondered if he behaved like this with all girls, or only with her. It was unlikely that such actions gave a girl pleasure. And the guy wondered if Rochester had any experience at all in such matters. As his hair did not interfere with him, he hit himself on the head and thought that he was gossiping again. He needed to get rid of this bad habit. After that, McGrady shouted to the whole room that they hadn't seen enough of how long he was going to wait. The guards informed McGrady that the hacker had been discovered. He stood up and threw a blanket at the girl. Wa'eni realized that she definitely did not have enough strength to resist him. The girl stood up and began to shake. She felt uncomfortable in such an environment. Wa'eni wanted to tell the guy to stop bullying her. The purple-haired guy asked what was wrong and why. Wa'eni sat down and cried. She didn't want it to be in the office, on the sheets, without rose petals, and her legs still hurt and they were being watched by cameras. She said she didn't want to do that. The guy put his hand on the head of the main character. The girl did not understand what this guy was doing. He decided to calm her down, but it seemed to the beauty that he just decided to stroke her like a dog. McGrady's gaze fell on the girl, and emotions flashed in his eyes. He thought about how fate had brought them together, and he realized that meeting such a beautiful girl was a real happiness. The red-haired girl thought that he had decided to show himself as the master caressing the animal that had just been punished. Even if she ran away now, she would still not succeed. She thought maybe he was sorry for what happened and she should take advantage of it. Wa'eni asked McGrady if she could find out where her friend Kong Tae was. The purple-haired guy got angry. Wa'eni looked at him and asked if he could answer directly and honestly at least once. The guy replied that in their turbulent times, even honest words have a price. The main character decided to bargain with the head of the clan. After all, she understood that it was better to know for sure than to suddenly find herself naked again, and under the cameras. The clan leader said, first of all, the girl should help him get dressed. She agreed. When Wa'eni dressed him, she couldn't look at his smug face. It was very infuriating and at the same time, his face was very cool. Wa'eni asked if McGrady would answer her or not, and he replied that Kong Tae hadn't died in the forest. She had been taken by Horus. The beauty was surprised and asked where her friend was now. She assumed that there was a relationship between Horus and Kong Tae. McGrady replied that he had no idea. He didn't care if they appeared in front of him now. It was unlikely that he would give them a warm welcome. The red-haired girl pondered. Now that she knew that Kong Tae was alive, she should think about how to get out of here. At this time, Rochester's men were looking for a young hacker. They had to quickly locate him and catch the boy. The hacker sat there and didn't know what to do. He asked Chijon to help him escape, because if he was found, he would definitely be killed. The guy heard a man shout that he had found a hacker. He decided to run away very quickly. But he was captured. The men in tuxedos said the guy was quite fearless. The young hacker yelled at them to get their hands off him, at which point a detective appeared and shot McGrady's men. The hooded guy collapsed awkwardly to the ground. He felt a slight pain when he landed. He saw Chijon and said that he loved him very much. The detective replied that the hacker should hurry up quickly, because McGrady's people are everywhere. They quickly got into the car and drove away. The detective asked what happened. Didn't he tell him not to hack into their network and what happened to the data he hacked? The hooded guy replied that it was a big temptation and then fell silent. He then laughed and replied that he had put them up as a lot at the Buddha auction. This auction is very unusual. The auction house first buys up the goods that will be bought, so the lot cannot simply be withdrawn before the auction by the seller. At this auction, there is always a special and increased interest in all lots, respectively. There is a certain list of the main gangs, with special moral foundations, who receive notifications. At this moment, Chijon thought about the fact that Wa'eni had been blacklisted as a bandit along with Rochester, and what if he ransomed Wa'eni's life? But this idea was fleeting. As he knew that Wa'eni was unlikely to be happy about it, the young hacker shouted for the detective to look ahead. Chijon saw that they had fallen into a trap. They were surrounded on all sides by McGrady's cars. One of the cars crashed into them and pushed their car directly into the trailer. The young hacker shouted that they had been caught. The detective calmly replied, he had already understood it. They were just waiting to see what would happen to them next. The hooded guy assumed that they were Rochester's relatives who wanted to buy back the stolen information. They just didn't want to pay at auction, and decided to get it from the original source. The detective thought that this kidnapping was most likely planned. They wanted something from Chijon, after which he remembered Horus. As they are being driven away, they need to think things over calmly and find answers to their questions. The detective thought that Horace was behind it all, but this guy returned to his people. The hacker shouted that they had launched a gas. Chi-Jean said that it was just a sleeping gas. A fleeting thought crossed his mind if he was alone, but he had to act according to the situation. Further action takes place in the afternoon. In the Rochester mansion, a red-haired girl was going to meet McGrady to have dinner. The girl approached the head of the clan and sat next to him. I couldn't have imagined that the guy was such a great businessman, that it was incredibly difficult to run such a huge company, and she thought that McGrady only knew how to fight and kill. The purple-haired guy told the girl to say exactly what she wanted. The beauty wanted to know where Kong Tae was now. McGrady asked what kind of relationship they had, and she didn't think it was unusual for ordinary friends to have such a relationship and care. The red-haired girl replied that a man like McGrady would never understand this. The girl realized that she could have offended the guy, so she apologized to Rochester and told him not to take it personally. The girl has certain reasons for a strong friendship with Kong Tae. She began to remember how she met her friend. Then the action takes place in the distant past. A girl in a school uniform beat hooligans. She kicked one, two more attacked from behind, but she deftly coped with them. One of the guys got up and picked up a stick, then ran up to Wen from behind and hit her hard. Afterward, Kong Tae was standing on the balcony, talking to someone on the phone, and she noticed a battered red-haired girl sitting outside her house. Kong Tae took Wen to her place. A little time passed, and the main character woke up on the couch. The blonde girl wanted to go to the hospital, but the girl threw off the blanket, got up and wanted to leave, but Kong Tae told her not to leave. She needed to rest. The red-haired girl turned around and asked, she lived alone. The blonde girl replied that her parents had gone on a trip. Wen asked if the girl wasn't afraid that she might turn out to be a bad person and might hurt her. Her friend just laughed and replied that her instinct for self-preservation was at zero. Further action takes place in the present tense. The beauty says to McGrady, he always asked her why. She is looking for Kong Tae while he himself was looking for her everywhere. They just want the same thing, to have loved ones nearby. The purple-haired guy smiled. He was glad to hear that the girl thought they were similar. Wen boasted that she was very cool and everyone said that her name didn't suit her and that she should have been called Yu Wangzi. McGrady realized that the girl had been in trouble since childhood. The beauty asked if the guy wasn't worried that she was more popular with women than he was. The clan leader replied that he didn't care. The red-haired girl looked at the guy and was embarrassed, then asked McGrady if he wasn't interested in women. Then maybe he was into men. McGrady grabbed the beauty by the cheeks and replied that he was only interested in Wen and was waiting for at least some kind of response, or the girl did not understand this. The main character told the guy to remove his hands. The girl clutched her cheeks and said, in fact, she wants to know what the guy was like when he was a child. The head of the clan smiled and asked. The red-haired girl was curious to know about him. She really wanted to know a little about the guy. As soon as he wanted to tell, Eric came up to him and said that they had one thing to do. The purple-haired guy stood up and ordered Eric to take Wen home because it was getting late. The main character wanted the guy to wait. She did not understand what happened and why the girl could not go with him. McGrady turned around and answered. He was about to meet with an unpleasant person. Wen replied that she would be quiet. The purple-haired guy got angry and said that she wouldn't like to look at it because the girl didn't like cruelty. The beauty did not understand why he was so angry. Eric thought that the girl had a negative IQ. The girl turned around and asked the guy what he wanted to tell McGrady. Eric replied that she was narrow-minded. At that time some people in glasses were watching them. They went up to the roof where the helicopter was parked. Eric said that the girl would have to wait 10 minutes to ensure her safety. The main character did not understand why the guy kept changing the topic of conversation. Wen looked at the blonde guy and was very annoyed by his constant smile on his face. Eric came up and said, thanks to the beauty, they were able to find the hacker. He didn't expect that it was just a child. The main character was shocked. She realized that she overestimated the guy. The red-haired girl turned around and ran, but Eric stopped her. He told the girl not to spoil anything. Now is not the best time. See McGrady. Suddenly, the helicopter blades began to said that things were bad. He didn't want McGrady to blame him for Winnie's death. The girl was shocked. She thought how Eric could be worried about this now. They were put in a helicopter and they flew away. Then the action takes place in some unknown place, where a purple-haired guy arrives. and in front of him sits a bound detective and a hacker lies. McGrady looks at the guy and says they finally got to see each other. Ki-Jean smiles and replies that he's glad to see him. The hacker asked if this was McGrady. He thought he was a character from adult movies. The detective said the guy was too young for that, so he ordered him to lie down and be quiet. But the hooded guy didn't shut up. He told Ki-Jean that the purple-haired guy was doing lewd things to Wei. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, they wouldn't have been caught. The head of the clan told the detective that Wei was his girlfriend. The detective replied that Wei belonged to herself and not to someone else, so there was no need to emphasize the word my. Ki-Jean looked at McGrady and said, since this is what the guy said, it turns out that the clan leader is not sure of himself. The purple-haired guy kicked Ki-Jean in the face with all his might, and then said that he needed to be careful with his words. The detective asked if he saw him as an imaginary rival, behind the girl's heart. Why didn't he kill the guy right away, but dragged him here? Or did the clan leader want to know about Horse first? McGrady smiled and thought this guy wasn't so stupid, and then he sat down in a chair and said, since he came up with this idea, let him tell me. He just decided to listen to Ki-Jean with the utmost patience. The detective said, his goal was always to catch them all and he didn't have any friendship with Horace. The guy just decided to use him no more. Ki-Jean didn't know where Horace was now, but he knew the motives behind why he was against McGrady. At this time, Wei was lying on the floor. She heard someone asking the guys about McGrady. An unfamiliar voice was talking. He and his girlfriend followed this route daily. Their kidnapping plan was worked out in detail. The bespectacled man said that now that they had caught Wei, she could be used as bait, and the cigar man replied that it was possible to lure McGrady with a girl. The blonde guy said it was possible. McGrady had no shortage of girls, but this girl was different from everyone else. The man replied that he would have agreed with him completely if it had been about him or some confidant, since Eric is much more valuable than any girl. Eric replied that he was very mistaken. The man walked up to the blonde guy and put his hand on his shoulder, after which he said he had been watching him and his work for a long time, if he would like to work for him. As Wei watched and was starting to feel sick of them, she thought Eric wanted his young face to be left untouched. The blonde guy replied to the man, he won't work for them. With all due respect to Mr. Ku's family, Mr. McGrady still pleases his heart and eyes, so it's just a real pleasure to work for him. Mr. Ku replied that in that case, it was very annoying. After these words, the guy began to be beaten. The man's guards asked what to do with the girl. He replied that she would die anyway for the company of McGrady. A stranger approached them and said, in that case, let them entrust the girl to him. The guards replied that the girl was at his disposal. Mr. Kan walked up to Wei and hit her. He asked if she was hurting, after which he said that he was still very affectionate with her. He undressed and leaned over to the girl. The beauty thought that she was about to vomit from the aroma of his armpits. The girl decided to take the chance while they were alone here and ran away with all their strength with the man's foot. The main character urgently needed to free her hands. Mr. Kan looked at the girl and decided to stop her, but the girl managed to untie her hands and hit the man. The guard decided to check what was going on there and looked out the window. The red-haired girl covered herself with a man so that the guards would not notice anything. As soon as the guard left, the girl pushed Mr. Kan. Wei thought that the man was very weak, for the leader of the gang and the guards too, not at all like McGrady's. The beauty remembered how the maids constantly caught her. With such guards she could not do anything, and it was much easier to escape from these people. The red-haired girl looked out the window and saw a car. She had to get into it somehow and get away from here as quickly as possible, before they understood anything. Now the clan is keeping a close eye on Eric, so she has a chance to escape. She remembered the guy and said that it was none of her business. But the girl changed her mind. She couldn't leave Eric alone, so she went back. The guards noticed that the master, Ken, was unconscious. They decided to catch the red-haired girl. Mr. Ku came to the guards and told him that it would be much more difficult than they expected. Wei wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. She came up with a plan. The girl had to get into the car and to catch up with her, they would need people and most of the guards would be chasing her, so Erica would be guarding fewer people. The girl walked up to the car, opened her brother-in-law and got behind the wheel. She decided to drive away and attract all the attention to herself. Since the plan failed and they didn't go after her, the girl decided to change her plan and drove her car into the house. She kicked down the door and stopped. The red-haired girl began to look around to find Eric. The guards looked at the car and were surprised that the girl just didn't run away. People with guns started shooting at the car. She decided to check the car for weapons. Suddenly she heard the guard stop shooting. The main character looked out the window and saw Eric standing there. He asked the girl what she had forgotten here. The red-haired girl replied that she had come to save him. Eric was surprised that Wani had come back to save him on purpose, and the girl screamed that she probably shouldn't have done it. The blonde guy was very touched that they came to rescue him. He assumed that the girl would just leave in the car, so he took measures to detain them here. Who would have thought that in the end they would be together? The girl thought that the guy was from the evil spirits of the minions and she was still worried about him. The blonde guy looked at the legs of the main character. After that, Eric said that there was nothing wrong with Wani's leg from the beginning, so they could go and chase after Mr. Ku together. The girl didn't understand why they would do it at all. The guy explained that the girl had to go because she was the main character. Wani was frightened by his words and regretted that she was worried about him. The next action takes place about an hour ago, where McGrady listens to a detective who says he knows a lot about Horace. Rochester couldn't understand if everything Horace was doing was just for the girl. He remembered when a white-haired guy came up to him and told him to let Kong Tae go, since he realized that he had grabbed the wrong man. McGrady then replied that he was not going to keep her. She could leave at any time. Of course he would compensate her for the harm caused, but if she wanted to stay, he would not kick her out. The purple-haired guy asked Horace why he was asking if he wanted her to leave or hoped she would stay. Horace replied, he hoped the girl would leave. The head of the clan thought for a moment, then the expression on his face was quite ambiguous. He did not understand the white-haired guy at all. McGrady expected that they would fight for power, but did not expect this. Suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted by a call. McGrady took his phone out of his pocket. It was a video call. When the guy took the video call, he saw Eric. The blonde guy told the clan leader to hurry up and save him, because his beauty will soon say goodbye to life and not only to it. McGrady didn't understand what Eric said at first and so he thought the guy called himself pretty and so told him that he could solve all his problems with a wave of his hand, but then he spotted Wani. The red-haired girl lay unconscious. Mr. Ku greeted McGrady and told him to come to him. Mr. Ku said that there were so many questions to be discussed about the business that had been stolen from him, and he would also like to know why McGrady had set the killers on him. McGrady replied that he would grant Mr. Ku's request, that he would recall the assassins, and that the man hoped that the purple-haired boy would do him a favor and meet him. The cigar man finished the conversation, then walked up to Eric and told him that his master didn't care about him at all. Then the action takes place in the room where the detective is sitting. He is thinking, McGrady ran out of here very quickly, which could make him so nervous. Chi-Jean assumed that something had happened to Wani. The detective told the hack to be captured. Eric replied that he was in the helicopter at the time. He was afraid that there might be a plane crash. Beauty said that now they were all in danger. She should inform McGrady so that he would not have to put himself in danger by meeting with Mr. Ku for negotiations. Eric was surprised and asked the girl if she was worried about McGrady. The main character replied if it wasn't considered caring for any person. The blonde guy said that it was too late to report now and that the girl still did not understand McGrady's feelings for her. They came and crept up from behind the guards, then hit them. They collapsed on the floor. Eric said that from this place there is a beautiful view. The whole pier is in full view. In addition, several more snipers can be seen from the opposite side. With so many snipers, McGrady will not be able to cope. McGrady arrived at the appointed place in his car. The girl was very surprised by his arrival.